Hi, I'm Case Lowe, co-host of the Open the Voice Gate podcast. The one question I'm constantly asked when it comes to Dragon Gate is, how do I get into the promotion? Well, stop asking and start listening to the Open the Voice Gate podcast, released every Wednesday on the Voices of Wrestling podcasting network. For exclusive news and show reviews, look no further than the leader in Dragon Gate coverage, Open the Voice Gate.
This podcast is a member of the Voices of Wrestling podcasting network. Visit voicesofwrestling.com to hear the rest of our great podcasts, as well as show reviews, columns, opinions, and updates across the world of wrestling.
Hey there, Thunder Buddies and Travellers down Thunder Road. It's us, Days of Thunder, the WCW Thunder rewatch podcast that you didn't ask for, but we did anyway, coming to part of the Voices of Wrestling podcast network and powered by largemanappears.com. It's me, your Cadbury's double-decker, by which I mean underrated, on Thunder Road, Dave Ryan, and I'm joined, as I am every week, by my perplexed-looking co-host, Stagger Lee Malone. Lee, you're wearing glasses to show that time has passed. How are you?
I feel like you brought that up the last time we recorded the show, that I was now wearing glasses, but yeah, I'm
still not used to it.
Looking a little bit older, feeling very much like. Do you remember Bricktop from Snatch? Yeah, I had one of those days I think it was last Friday in work, and I was just like, you know what, that was how I was feeling throughout the day. Where I was just getting more and more pissed off as the day went on. But I'm now a member of the glass community, I suppose. Yeah. We will not beat the nerd allegations. Both of us now, bespectacled. Definitely will not. Yeah. But yeah, no. I need to go back to your double decker introduction there. Yeah. Yeah. I don't agree with your analysis that it's underrated. If anything, I would say it's full of shit. Oh, no. This is slander. This is slander. The double-decker is a fucking classic. It is the best. So when I was in school and had break time, and you'd have very limited money at break time, and at little break, there'd be 2 breaks in the day, little break, big break. They're often colloquially called in Ireland. Mm-hmm. You'd only have 15 minutes, and you have to make very wise choices with your limited budget to get you through the rest of the day until lunchtime. And some days you could really spoil yourself and get a can from the can machine and a bar of chocolate from the bar machine. And over a long period of time and copious research of the things we could buy in those machines, 2 were your best value for money in terms of filling you. Now, at the time, this was great because chocolate bars were maxed out at 80 cent. Jesus. Those were the fucking days. And cans were €1. Yeah, I don't think you'd get a fun-size fucking bar for 80 cent these days.
No. You get a smack in the mouth for €1 these days. You could have the Nestle Drifter, which sadly is a bar that's discontinued.
See, that would have been my choice.
The Drifter has been gone for nearly a decade, and I didn't know this.
That makes me sad and old.
Yeah. They need to bring back the Drifter. In this era where we're bringing back like the Top Deck bar and a bunch of other Cadbury's classics, which I love, the Top Deck, which for our American friends is like a bar that's the base of it is milk chocolate and the top of it is white chocolate. So it's a mix of the 2 in one, and it's glorious.
But I feel like Cadbury and Nestle have had many variations of that same idea, so bringing back the Top Deck means nothing to me.
Yeah, the Drifter needs to come back.
Yeah,
there's nothing that replaces the caramel and wafer density and chew.
Like those Tunnocks chewy bars. I can't think of the name of them. The ones that aren't the tea cakes are the closest in terms of that chew factor. But in terms of your usual in a shop chocolate bar, there's nothing that's replaced a Drifter, and that's poor form. The double decker though, like I can't. That's the other one, and that would be great and filling because it's got the kind of like almost like Rice Krispie-ish base, and it's got a nice thick layer of nougat, and is encased in Cadbury's chocolate, and it's fucking great. What's your beef with the double decker, sir?
I've never been a double decker person. It's a very bleh kind of chocolate treat. Like if I'm gonna have chocolate, I want something good.
I would, in a very sommelier sort of way, I would often pair that with a Club Rock Shandy, which I think is the elite soft drink of Ireland.
That's the drink everybody goes for. If you're coming out, like everyone's like, oh, you have to have rock shandy.
Yeah.
Don't get me wrong, I like a rock shandy. I do not love a rock shandy.
I love a rock shandy. So rock shandy is like a citrus soda drink that's a mix of orange and lemon in one. There is a Club Orange and there is a Club Lemon, and Club Rock Shandy is both of them in the one drink, and it's
Club Lemon is not as easily available as it used to be.
Yeah,
I don't notice it. Excuse me, as much. But my thing is, I'm not a fan of lemon anyway. Like lemony things. Not
a huge lemon fan.
So is my wife. She would always make like lemon kind of cakes and muffins. And
this has brought me lovely segue into a little bit more snack talk. It'll be brief snack talk because this is a fucking huge episode we got to get through. It won't be the epic half-hour snack talk from last week.
Is that how long we went? Fuck.
The Starcade snack talk went between 30 and 45 minutes. Like the brown sauce tangent alone was the guts of 20 minutes.
And I'd say it was still preferable to breaking down Starcade, so...
It's the thing we've got the most feedback on in about 6 months on the podcast is the brown sauce debate. But anyway, we went and did our menu tasting for our wedding.
Oh yes.
And I'm not going to divulge what the menu is because you and your wife, as honoured guests at the wedding, we want it to be a surprise for most people what they will be having. What I'd say is menu tastings are great, man. It's like hey, do you want to go stay in the hotel you're going to get married in and get like a fucking huge rake of dinners? It's like, yes I do.
Yeah.
The things I can divulge to you. I tested, very importantly, what the Guinness was like.
Okay.
I think for a multitude of our guests, this is an important thing, is the Guinness. And I can attest that the Guinness in this venue is good. So you can stand relieved on that one, sir. What I can say for your lovely wife is that as a fan of lemon, she will be delighted with one of the dessert options.
Yeah, I mean, there's always a lemon dessert option. It's a
Yeah.
very Irish thing, I feel like.
Yes.
A lot of weddings I've gone to have had some variation of a lemon tart or cheesecake.
Yeah. Something that was really interesting is that they gave us, for our tasting, now neither of us were having wine because I don't like wine and Emma's pregnant. But in spite of that, they gave us in our wedding pack like a bunch of sheets that were your tasting notes from the meal.
Okay.
And I was just like, Emma was laughing at me because all I wrote beside one of the meat options was what the meat was, and then ... all caps, yes.
As soon as you started that, I was like, his notes are just going to say yes.
Yes. So that went very well. But
Okay.
I think the thing I started getting into, because I was just like, I know I like all this stuff, and definitely the priority is I'm going to put together a menu that myself and Emma would both like, because there's no point in us trying to defer to other people if we're not going to like the menu, right?
So, here's a question.
Yes.
Emma has, for a lot of the recent past, been vegetarian. And
Yes.
vegan even as well, I believe, for a while, wasn't she?
Vegan for a while,
Yeah.
but mostly vegetarian.
So, obviously with pregnancy, she's kind of returned to the meat eating.
Yes. Glorious
So-
return.
How has that shaped the menu? Without giving too much
so-
away.
It has helped because our son will only be 5 months old by the time of the wedding, so she would still be on the meat by then. So she will be able to have the meat option. But as an experienced vegetarian, we were able to ask them to prepare one of the vegetarian options for us so that Emma could try it and know whether... Because the thing about, like... And if there's many vegetarians listening to this, they can sound off on it. What I have found at weddings and just in a lot of restaurants is they fob off the vegetarian option on the two most popular things to do that are just fucking easy, and that is the veggie burger.
Yeah.
And we're going to cut an aubergine in half and fill it with some shit.
Yeah. Here's a massive mushroom full of stuff.
Yes, yeah. See, neither of us like mushrooms at all.
Yeah, because you're wrong, like both of you.
You will not find a mushroom at our wedding. You can look as hard as you want.
That sounds like a challenge.
Yeah, there's more chance of you going out into the woods around our venue and find a mushroom growing in the field than there is you finding it on the menu.
I know where I'll find them in the location, but yeah.
Oh, I'm sure you will. Yeah. But yeah, so we were able to try the vegetarian option, and I tried it as well, and it's really, really nice. So I'm very happy with that. What I started getting into was, right, I'm not going to make concessions and put on things I wouldn't like, but what I'm going to do is, sometimes you can get, right, at weddings, you can have this thing where all the courses are so heavy. That by the end of it, you're just in bits and there's no crack for the rest of the evening because everybody's just sitting around in a food coma, right? And then you've also got the ones that are so light that everybody's still fucking starving by the end of it. So my priority with our menu choices, and I think I have achieved this, is to put together courses where each of the individual 3 courses are light in and of themselves, but the cumulative effect of the 3 courses puts you at a state that I would describe as nicely full.
Yes.
And will keep you going till we do have, one thing I can reveal is that we do have like bonus additional snacks coming later in the evening,
that's a staple of an Irish wedding.
Yeah. So there would always be, growing up, there would always be, the cake would be much later at the wedding to keep you going. But the last 15 years or so, Irish weddings have definitely become one of those cultures where there's not an evening meal, but there's like an evening snack situation happening.
I don't think I've been to a wedding in the last, probably 20 years where there hasn't been sandwiches, cocktail sausages, wings, that kind of like plattery food, shall we call it?
Yes.
Brought out around 11:30, 12 o'clock.
Yeah, and we're looking in that kind of neighbourhood, but there are some really fun options. And some, apart from the stuff the hotel is providing, there's some cool stuff that we have in the offing as well that I will not divulge. But yeah, I'm looking at not overfilling people, but no one's going to be starving. And a priority of ours is to cut down on the chuffa that day so that people aren't going to do the other thing that happens at Irish weddings a lot, is people sitting around for hours starving.
Yes.
Because you will go to sometimes a wedding that's at like 11 o'clock in the morning and you won't sit down for food until 4 or 5 o'clock, and there'll be nothing in between that except Prosecco and a bar that's not an open bar. So our ceremony is until 3.
Oh, lovely.
And you will be getting served at 5:30.
As somebody who will be attending this wedding, I am so happy to hear that.
And by my own request, right, it starts at 3. If it lasts past 3:30, I'll be tapping the watch, Fergie style. I'll tell you that. This is when we spoke to the celebrant, one of the first things we said was, how short can we make this? And she was like, well, there's the legally required stuff we have to do that takes 20 minutes. And we're like, okay, so 30 minutes max.
Wow.
Yeah. I was at a cousin's wedding in York in the north of England about 10 years ago, and her wedding, and I do not kid you, lasted 7.5 minutes. I will not beat that. They literally did entrance music, vows, exit music.
That's good going.
Yeah, I was stunned. I was like, my seat wasn't even warm yet.
I don't know if I ever talked about this on the air. Like when myself and Jen first got together, God, we were 20. We were 20, but I think when we were about 21, we got invited to a wedding in the UK of. She worked with a couple of South Africans, in her job at the time. So they were getting married in the UK, and it was somewhere just outside London. But it was like this big country house. Like it was proper posh. And like we're like two young fucking Irish kids here. Like we were just like, what the fuck is this? Like we were staying in this like country house hotel. We got transported by what I can only describe as like private taxi. You know, like the full blacked out minivans. To somewhere like 45 minutes away for the ceremony, and then back for the wedding itself, like the meal and the afters and all that, back to the country house hotel. And it was one of the maddest things. Like, just the place was like, I was just like, you know where I'm from in Dublin. It's it's not, a good place, and to be like whisked over here, like, oh yeah, also like we paid very little for the accommodation because it was all, for the most part, looked after. It was insane. But also, like, it was just like we drove 45 minutes to get there, 45 minutes back, and the ceremony itself took fucking ages. Like, it was one of them, like, it was where, like, we were leaving the venue, say, I can't remember the times, but like, say we left at 11 o'clock, we didn't get back until like the early evening to be fed, and it was such a long day, and it was also baking hot because it was the middle of the summer.
Yeah.
And there's nothing worse than when you have like a like really starchy shirt stuck to your neck and you're back on a fucking summer's day.
Yeah.
So
you're the sweaty uncle on the dance floor within an hour.
It's so bad, but that was insane. But yeah, no, as somebody who will be attending your wedding, I am so happy to hear it won't be kicking off until 3 o'clock.
Yeah. Now, I will say, for that cousin's wedding, I'm not trying to beat the 7.5 minutes because I don't think that's realistic.
It's not
and
possible.
The other thing, her late night snack will also take some beating because they didn't tell us there was going to be, and then me and my cousins were moaning about how hungry we were, and we were also similarly in a country house out in the middle of nowhere, so it wasn't like we could pop to a shop and get a few sandwiches. And all of a sudden, these like doors at the side of the dance hall just slid open, and there was an entire hog roast on.
See, that's a new thing that people do now.
Yeah.
They have like whole fucking hog roasts like at midnight.
Oh, this was a fresh. It was still on the spit.
Yeah.
Like this, it was. Oh man, it was good shit. Although, again, like you said, considering like Emma was a vegetarian, will be going back to vegetarianism not long after our wedding. I don't think a hog roast would fly. I wasn't going to try and float it, but it was not going to be a goer, I don't think. But we do have some cool options.
I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, it should be good. Should be good crack. Just you and Jack bickering at each other all day, just heckling him at the top table.
Yeah,
good stuff.
What more do you want?
What more do you want? Right, okay. Let's go into it. This is a big episode, Lee, because momentous. It is, as was alerted to us maybe a month or two ago in the Discord, the shows we're about to cover are the last official shows in the run of head-to-head SmackDown versus Thunder.
Yes.
We had 21 weeks of SmackDown versus Thunder. And now Thunder is tapping out and going to Wednesdays.
That's insane to think about, isn't it? That happened that quickly.
Yeah. How long was the NXT AEW before NXT went running that time?
That sounds like a question for our good pals Garrett and Liam.
Yeah. I want to say NXT was like 6 to 9 months.
It was a bit longer than that, wasn't it? It was over a year, surely.
Was it into the Pando?
I think so, yeah.
Yeah. Because it was during the pandemic that people like really started dropping off NXT and started watching because AEW was doing really good.
Yeah, it was actually good at pandemic TV.
Yeah. Jeez, if only they've been good at non-pandemic TV now more consistently, that would be great. But anyway, that's besides the point. Let's just launch into the week, because we're in 2000 now, Lee. I genuinely, when we started the show in 1998, and it feels like we started
in real time.
In 1998, yeah. And I was 8 years old. But it really did feel like, because you do the math on the back of a napkin, and because we do every 2 weeks, that means if we don't divert with Nitro or other things, as we often have done, if we had just done Thunders every 2 weeks, it would take us 1 calendar year our time to get through 6 months of Thunder. So I was just like, by the time we get to 2000, we'd have been doing this for a minimum of 4 years.
How long have we been doing it now, Dave?
Oh God, I always have to look at when our Twitter account was started, because
our Twitter account was December 2018.
2018. So we started January 2019. So we're coming up on 6 years.
So only the 2 extra years it's taken us to get to this point.
Only the 2 extra years through diversions. You think we would have sped up when we were doing it weekly during lockdown, but we just came up with more distractions then.
Yeah, I was only thinking as I was getting my water and my can of Pepsi for this episode that I've almost finished at this point already. I was just thinking, because I opened the press and I could see all my whiskey, and I was like, isn't it funny that the two of us used to get fucking absolutely loaded while doing these shows?
Yeah.
And I don't think people remember that so much.
There's some of those shows, guys. If you've never gone back and done the complete run of Thunder, I can't say I'm advocating that you do, but I know we do pretty well on most of them. But there's a couple that, if you know us well enough by now, and listen to these shows where we're stone cold sober, and then go back and listen to a couple of select shows from that kind of. I know we started drinking 5 episodes in.
Some of those double taped episodes, by the second episode,
there's a couple I've gone where I listen to either you or me, and I'm like, we're fucking lit on this one. It's.
Yeah.
We started at episode 5, and I think right around the time in so that would have been early 2019, and I think right up until 2021 when I went back to work physically, I think we were fairly regularly getting at least buzzed to get through those.
I think the only thing that would stop me regularly drinking was the fact that I was still getting them for work for the most part.
Yeah, and then I think what really, because I stopped, and then when your second child was born,
yes.
that was the end of it for you then, for sure. But anyway, yes, God, we're now in 2000. This long distant, it really, the Flight of the Conchords, "Humans Are Dead" song, which is the distant future of the year 2000. That's where we are now. Finally, it just felt weird to open this Observer I'm going to read, which is dated January 10th, 2000. And then we will be talking about 2 shows from January 6th, 2000. Definitely the most upsetting things that have ever happened on a January 6th. I think we can all agree. We certainly will by the end of this, because fuck did we not enjoy these shows.
I could argue that match that we had to watch with Chris Jericho is the most upsetting thing that's happened to him on January 6th.
The most offensive thing a member of his household has allegedly been involved in. Moving on. Let's talk of the Observer. Anyway, let's see what Uncle Dave has to say. He's reporting his headline story today is that Tokyo Dome 2000 was a massive financial success for New Japan. And he talks about how it's kind of funny that the mixed promotional angle, the very thing that New Japan has specialized in for nearly 3 decades, looks to be back in the forefront. As at Tokyo Dome 2000, there was representatives from WCW, Rings, along with Takada and they met with New Japan management in conjunction with the biggest show at the Tokyo Dome. They got 63,500 fans in the Dome, which got them at the time on the number 15 spot on the all-time list for Pro Wrestling Gates.
I hate to say it, Dave. They didn't get 63.50.
Yes. Yeah. Shh. That's what Dave says. Dave's bought a hook, line, and sinker, so shall we. But this was the show headlined by Kensuke Sasaki being crowned IWGP Heavyweight Champion, having beaten Tenryu. There's a bunch of stuff. I'm not going to go through the show blow by blow. It is kind of gone reviewed match by match here, but that's not really important
we don't need
for
that.
us.
Yeah.
What is important is that the representatives that were there from WCW were JJ Dillon and Paul Orndorff, representing the office to see how things could work between all these promotions going forward in the year 2000. So if that's your kind of bag, maybe you want to dive into it a bit more. Dave does some analysis now that we are in a new year about how his belief that 1999 was the most successful year in terms of media anyway. It's the biggest year in the history of pro wrestling. He said now that the year has ended, in a few weeks they'll review whether it was the biggest by other standards, but by media it certainly was. He talks about how really WWF has had its biggest year ever, and 2000 looks like it's going to be even bigger. We have ECW that is it's definitely not growing. It's kind of lucky to still be there, but it's holding somehow. And he says a little bit of the thing that's keeping them steady is that they've opened up more kind of buys in the Canadian market. So whereas US is kind of stagnating a little bit, they're being buoyed a little by Canada at the moment. And WCW, the one that from anybody, any way you look at it,
it's
WCW not doing great right now. Not a whole, again, in the big headline stories, there's been lots of kind of WCW is on fire stuff the last few weeks. Maybe no news is good news on that front, that I'm scrolling all the way down from the headlines on page 3 to page 22 before there's another WCW mention.
Well, I don't want to get your hopes up, Dave, but I'd say over the next couple of weeks things are going to heat up pretty quickly.
I don't know what you're saying. What happens in January of 2000 in WCW? That's worth writing about.
Yeah.
But I will say that the lead off in the WCW section is preliminary figures indicate Starrcade as a gigantic disappointment, which is something we touched on the Starrcade 99 episode, which if you haven't listened to that yet, go back and listen to it. We're told a lot closer to an 0.3 rating. It was only slightly better than Fall Brawl, which was the lowest buy rate for either of the two big companies in the history of pay-per-view. So it makes it number 2 on the worst buy rate for a major company in history list. The reality, and I don't know how that reality can be explained away since they had months to build Hart versus Goldberg. At this point, the plan looks to build for Goldberg's return at Uncensored in Miami. Based on WWF failing to sell out Raw in that same building, which is The Rock's hometown, the odds of doing an impressive live gate for the show since the previous WCW Nitros in Miami were horrible, and the last one didn't draw at all, don't look promising. Would you like a Ric Flair update?
Sure. Is he still in the desert?
There's always a very stern, here's the situation. There's always a kind of, you can feel Dave taking a deep inhale whenever there's a Ric Flair WCW update. The situation with Ric Flair at press time is this. The entire scenario as it involved Terry Funk this week was actually booked last week for Ric Flair.
Oh.
In other words, Flair was supposed to come back in Greenville as the commissioner, get punked again in his neck of the woods by Kevin Nash to set up a match at the sold-out pay-per-view where Flair would put up the commissioner's job against the NWO, having to break up for good in a match that Nash would then win. So their big, great idea for Ric Flair was, hey, Rick, what about this? What if we brought you back randomly in an authority role and then also had you randomly put up that authority role in a match at a pay-per-view? God, what a fresh idea.
Wasn't Ric Flair WCW president in February of 1999?
Yes. Yeah. This is again the thing where they brought it's maybe the third or fourth time we've pointed out this, where Russo is brought in to bring all these fresh ideas, and most of the ideas he's either stealing from ideas they did in WWF when he was there, or he's stealing from stuff WCW already did with almost the same people.
Yeah. And, also, Kevin Nash and the NWO have multiple times in Horseman country beaten up Ric Flair and the Horseman.
Yeah.
There's no heat. There's no heat to be garnered from that anymore.
Yeah. There's also talk that at the moment it isn't a huge rush to bring Hogan back. That they're like politically the best move right now is to let him. Absence makes the heart grow fonder. It's like people were kind of over him by the time he finished, so keep him off TV and the return will be insane, is the thinking. I have something that will absolutely fucking stagger you, staggerly, because I wasn't even going to read out this part, but then I was scanning through and I was like, I can't not say this, because I usually scan through the bits where they talk about the tapings, because I don't want to like read in this section stuff that comes up on the show we're about to review. So there's no real point to it. But he talked about this Thunder taping. The taping was on 1/4 for a 1/6 airing. And everybody in the building, imagine this, said that this Thunder that we're about to review was considerably better than the Nitro of that week.
Wow.
Because this isn't a good show at all.
No, spoilers, but no, it's not.
Yeah.
That speaks more to just how bad Nitro is at this point under Russo.
Yeah.
Because don't forget, Nitro is getting all of Russo's attention.
Yeah, well, this is the thing that we kind of said, is that Thunder isn't going to turn as Russo as quickly as Nitro did, and we were right on that. And yeah, it's not going to go as bad as it can get as quickly because he's not even paying attention to Thunder.
Yeah,
you're dead right. Bob Mould quit the company early last week. Mould, a legend in the alternative rock world, was originally hired to be part of the booking committee under Nash, as you might recall. We talked about that at the time. When Russo and Ferraro were hired, his input was pretty well diminished to the point of almost nothing, and people close to the situation noted his love affair with the wrestling business also burned out quickly when they wouldn't pay much attention to his ideas. He was described as being not very outgoing at the meetings, but his ideas made a lot of sense, and he wasn't given a chance. The most notable idea we've heard from him was on the Starrcade pay-per-view show. He came up with the idea that Sting would have the silly string in the mace bottle, so he could prove he wasn't fooled by Elizabeth's turn. Of course, that idea made perfect sense, because after proving he wasn't fooled, he stood there and let her hit him with the face with a baseball bat. Yeah.
You say let. I think she just fucking wallowed him.
Alternative Press, in its year-end issue, named the Insane Clown Posse as its band of the year.
Cool.
In an interview with them, there were a few references to pro wrestling. Violent J said one thing that came out of the wrestling: we're addicted to the painkillers now, but just on the road. The thing is, we're still like super nerds. We wouldn't know how to get any pills ourselves. If we were going to, we'd be asking people, "Did you get an operation recently?" I love how, in an interview with the press, Violent J is like, "I will willingly admit how stupid we are."
Yeah, I love that, like, of all people, the Insane Clown Posse is shitting on the pill culture in wrestling.
Yeah. I mean, like, it doesn't that say a lot about how fucked wrestling is? That, like, the alternative press's band of the year don't know how to get drugs as quickly as professional wrestlers.
Yep.
Anyway, interesting note. Bret Hart's injury is mentioned for the first time. But I thought the context of the injury is really important, because the kick is not mentioned.
Oh, funny that.
Dave says Hart suffered a concussion after being dropped on his head during the Goldberg match at Starrcade.
Would that be when he put on the figure 4?
It doesn't say specifically. It wasn't Hart driving the monster truck, nor was it Sid in the car that was being run over, although both were the original plan. Oh, this happened on Nitro, I believe.
We've done the monster truck runs over car angle as well multiple times in 1999.
Yeah. Hart was told what part of the car to drive over and where Sid would be in the car so as not to drive over him. Hart refused, saying that he wasn't an experienced stunt driver and felt if they were going to use a monster truck and drive over a car and go to that expense, they should go to the expense and have a professional stuntman do the stunt, which is very fucking true. There was no problem with his decision, and based on everything, he was actually apologised to about even being asked in the first place. Great reviews for the Best of Nitro special, with the announcers sitting around kind of going over the history of Nitro. Dave did say, sort of leaving out the historical fact of its complete collapse. Although it isn't like they'd want to get that detailed about it. Yeah, true. Perry Saturn got himself in a little bit of trouble, but thank God he's not going to be sticking around for very long. He was on the law.
Oh.
Previously. Wrestlers just should never have done the law. Like, the amount of times over the years where it's like they did the law or something similar and they said some shit and got some heat. He was on the law. Who do you think, Lee, is somebody that is probably fairly well universally beloved backstage in WCW, who is a big star associated with the brand, and you probably shouldn't trash him on a live program?
Sting?
Perry Saturn on the Law Wrestling Show called Sting the most overrated wrestler in the business, saying he's been doing the same match for 10 years, which apparently was the latest thing that drew him some heat. And he also confirmed he injured his hip on the 12/27 Nitro. Fuck's sake. That is a dumb man. Like, is that what... Like, is the reason he was given the dumb gimmick in WCW and the brain damage dumb gimmick in WWF... that was the rib, that he is dumb? Because this is an incredibly dumb thing to do.
I would think that is very much, this guy's a fucking moron, let's make him look like a moron.
Because, like Sting, to my knowledge, isn't like, if you trash Nash, like, you're not going to be on TV again. Do you mean, or Hogan, or somebody like that with the stroke, per se. Sting didn't seem like that kind of guy anyway, at least from the outside. They'd be like, right, he can't be on TV because he trashed me anymore. But you want to talk about a guy who I would say most people who want to wrestle for WCW were drawn there by the fact that they're on the fucking roster with Steve Stinger. And, like, that is gonna fucking earn you some ire, you know?
Yep.
But it would be like going to... Except he actually is shit. Like, if you were in WWF and started trashing The Undertaker. Do you know what I mean? It's like, Undertaker is bad. And we, at least in Undertaker's case, he is bad and we know he's bad.
Well,
right?
I mean, we know Chris Jericho did this on air and got punished for it.
Yeah. Yes. But, like, why would you do that in that company? You can trash Sting when you're in WWF or trash Undertaker when you're in WCW. But, like, why would you do that? Like, you're just digging a hole for yourself, you know? Brett hasn't written the Calgary Sun column in 2 weeks because he's going to completely change the theme and tone of the column, but wanted to explain why and not get it lost in the holiday season. Ready to Rumble is tentatively set for a 4/17 release, so get ready, Lee. We're going to be covering that in a few months. Shane Douglas appeared on WWF Live. I did not realize that people outside of the company were popping up on that thing. Okay. I never really listened to it. He said that the Revolution are going to be dumping, like, he's giving away storylines on WWF Live. He goes, we're going to dump Asia and bring in a new woman. He didn't mention the name Tori Wilson, but that was certainly the plan months ago. The only thing I can think of is, like, is Dave getting confused and it's the WCW internet radio show?
WCW Live?
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking. Like, is that what he's doing? Because I know they both had internet audio shows.
Yeah, well...
Like, Madden is still doing the one for...
WCW was always WCW Live. I don't remember a WWF Live. I always just remember it being Bite This.
We all remember Bite This, but that was a few years later. There was some sort of... Because do you remember fucking Russo? We read a story about Russo on WWF's audio thing.
Well, they had
giving out before he left.
They had WWF Radio.
Yeah, so maybe Dave's getting confused there. Hopefully he is, because that would, like, it would make doubly knows. Although, again, he's a couple of weeks away from trying to quit, so who knows?
Well, I mean, look, I don't even think Shane Douglas is getting invited on a WWF radio show, so, you know.
Yeah. Interesting note from Canyon. Canyon was on Wrestling Observer Live and said that when he used to come up with a lot of his unique moves, the guy
they're all over the fucking internet. What the fuck are they doing?
Oh, dude. Like, but here's the thing. Like, in the last year or two of WCW, a lot of WWF and WCW guys were on Observer Live.
Like, what the fuck
like,
are they
you
doing?
can go back to... But you can go back to 2000 and listen to like Taz and Kurt Angle and people like that popping up on shows like Wrestling Observer Live. The thing about Observer Live, at least, was most people were guarded enough on that with Dave about giving away storylines and stuff. Like they would maybe talk a little bit about like out of character and stuff like that, but they wouldn't give away the farm like fucking Perry Saturn's after burying.
Like, but there we go. We've Saturn on fucking The Law. We've Douglas popping up on fucking WCW Live, and now you're talking about Canyon on Observer Radio, all in the space of a week.
Yeah, but Bischoff was coming on. Bischoff and Russo have been on Observer Live.
I know that, but like
in that time, and
at some point you have to say, "Lad, shut the fuck up."
Yeah, no, they're wrestlers, man. They never shut the fuck up. But like as well, you got to think like at this time, much as he will deny it now, like the likes of Bischoff or the likes of Russo, or even still the likes of Vince, still had good relationships with Dave.
Yeah, that's true.
Like Vince didn't completely turn on Dave and stop talking to him until after the wars, when there was no use for Dave for him anymore because he had no competition. Like Dave would still get like comp tickets. I told a story on the show before that Brian Alvarez told about like him getting a tryout for the cruiserweight division in WCW, and like him and Dave hanging out backstage at a Nitro and stuff like that. So like this is the thing, is like the Sheets were pals of these companies in a very official sense until they didn't have to be anymore.
Look,
and that's worth remembering.
It's the thing Dave was talking about. He's been paid by WCW. He's been paid by WWF. Like he has taken payments from these companies.
Yeah, but even as much as in the form of like either appearing as talking head on things or like just getting comp tickets as a payment of a sort. But like people trusted Dave over the years because like he would still slate the fucking companies even if they were giving him tickets or access. Do you know what I mean? Like, much as I think the quality of his journalism, like he got by a fake Twitter account last week as we were recording this.
I know.
Do you know what I mean? Like, so like the quality, but like I've never doubted his ability to remain independent from these companies. Like people think he's in the bag for certain companies and like putting out the stuff they want put out, and that's never been true of Dave. Like
Dave, we've seen the invoice, Dave. I don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah, I know, right? That's the thing. You want to talk about one of the early people that fucking turned a corner on AEW. Was like fucking, if it was true he was on the take from them, Tony Khan would want to be fucking demanding his money back, I'll tell you that. But anyway, Canyon on Wrestling Observer Live said that when he used to come up with a lot of his unique moves, the guy he'd try them out on at the power plant was Lash LaRue.
Oh.
So an interesting role there in one of our favorite, the history of one of our favorite unique wrestlers in the Canyon, is that Lash was helping him out. He said that LaRue, who was married and had a family, would still make a 90-mile drive in each direction daily to the power plant just to attend the classes. Like, you can't fault, like, this is the thing, like, he's getting lost in how much he was pushed how early, but I don't think we've ever been able to fault his
effort,
his desire.
Yeah.
At this point, nobody from WCW management has called Bruno Sammartino about doing anything, so that seems to have been just an idea someone had out loud and never followed up with. Interesting one for Dave to put in the WCW section, but considering where this person is now, it's worth mentioning out loud. Ric Flair's youngest daughter, Ashley, married the cheerleading All-American team in her age group at a competition this past week in Nashville. Oh. We will, before the end of WCW, see her on television at one stage. I believe during the Stacy Keibler wedding angle. It's around the time she shows up.
Fun.
That's all coming this year. Look forward to that. Fitness model Medeja claims on her website that she's been signed to WCW to become a new Nitro girl. It's not quite the way it would go, but yes, she will be coming in imminently to be part of a fairly prominent act.
Yeah, she's a little bit more important than a Nitro girl, I think, for the remaining run of the company.
I would say so. And that brings us, it's the biggest section, right? The letters section of the Observer has now just become the Russo section, as the readership, which you remember we read out at the time, they were, if not positive on Russo, they were at least, a lot of the letters were open to seeing what he could do. What I will say is, pretty much every letter in this trashes him.
Yeah.
But I'll read out the first one. And this kind of sums up the readership of the Observer at the time, what they're thinking.
Is there any, let's say, familiar names in these bunch of letters that you've taken notice of?
I'll have a read at the names on the bottom of the other 2 or 3 that are here, but here's the one I'm going to read out anyway. What Vince Russo is doing in WCW is not wrestling. It's a burlesque show featuring a motley cast of characters, the majority of which were once pro wrestlers, which is a fucking bang-on description of what he's doing. The clean finish has been virtually eliminated in the name of advancing storylines. The world title has been rendered completely worthless. I don't think it's completely worthless yet, but it is about to be. It is on the road there. None of the participants have gotten any sort of meaningful win on their way to the finals of the tournament. The champion is the guy who has the most friends at ringside and the most outside interference on the day of the show. No match goes more than 3 minutes without a run-in. It's so predictable. I attack you during your match, you come back and attack me during my match. Now the booking team has given some airtime to the luchadors in an insulting piñata match that was merely a new variation of the big man beats up a bunch of little guys angles for Steve Williams. The Jim Ross angle was no worse than Big Show having cancer angle. I will disagree with this writer there. At no point in the Jim Ross angle did we get the visual of Big Show on his father's coffin being dragged through a graveyard.
Yeah. Or Big Moss Man reading a poem.
Oh, your daddy finally croaked. The main problem seems to be there's no control valve for the creativity. If something is awful or even excellent, it's just there 1 minute and gone the next. Nothing sinks in with the viewer. Isn't anyone from the front office telling Russo this? Apparently not. The current strategy may cut into the WWF's audience, but WCW no longer represents the competition to the WWF. It's a watered-down WWF. God, this is a line that I'm thinking about when it comes to AEW now, where it's like, you're not being the competition, you're being WWE light. Yeah,
which I think is you're now off-brand cola. That's what you are.
Yeah. I think the two crucial mistakes in the history of that, and I know I'm not counting Punk as one of the two, because like. The thing is, I've had many arguments about, like, is Punk leaving the defining moment of AEW's downturn?
Nope.
I don't think it is, especially when it is Phil Brooks. It was going to happen eventually. The mistakes were all the stuff after we're trying to keep him, but that's not even what I'm going to include. I'm going to say the two biggest things are, number 2, whatever happened with the dissolution of the relationship with Cody. Because Cody's I think we said this actually a couple of weeks ago on the show. Cody's the only move between the two companies that definitively hurt one company and helped another. He's the only one.
Yep.
Because like you can't in all sincerity say everything that's happened to AEW is because Punk left, for example, and Punk also hasn't, like, he's popped ratings, but he hasn't moved business was already moving before he got there, you know. But yeah, Cody, and then number 1 was you're trying to be WWE. That was the thing that basically ultimately ended up eradicating about 400 to 450,000 weekly viewers of Dynamite that haven't come back yet.
Yeah.
But that was from Jeffrey Cohen, where he says Russo will be hailed as a company savior, much like Eric Bischoff was praised for being 3 years ago. We had Tim Lewis writing in as well with a short note, Adam Moore and James Holt. So not a huge, no one notable. Yeah. No. But yeah, there is, like, it is a growing number. Anytime there is a letter section, I've noticed the current is the internet people aren't with Russo anymore. You could argue how much they were to begin with, but at least, again, like I said, in the Observer section, they were willing to hear him out, and they have heard him out, and they don't like it.
And Joe, what's funny is you think Russo, being that he was so, you know, omnipresent online, he would have been reading this stuff and
You would,
taking this feedback and making the show better.
It's like because the cheap ass wasn't paying for an Observer sub.
Oh, he definitely was. Still is.
Maybe he was over at the Torch. Maybe old Wade was being a bit soft on him still at this stage. Who knows? Right, I think as we often do, this is Days of Thunder, so we will lead with Thunder. We also have significantly less to say about SmackDown and very little of it good. So I think we'll get through that a bit quicker when we're a bit punchier. Let's talk Thunder 94 from Florence, South Carolina. 6th of January 2000. This was a 2.5 rating, which is up by 0.3 from the holiday. It took a bit of a hit around the holidays. So we're back up to 2.5 this week, so they'll be happy about this. We are now, again, we praise them when it's due. The regularity to which now they kind of, I guess, have to do a previously on WCW to try and catch you up. Because so much shit happens on any one show that you need to do this. Bill Bush has declared that WCW will name a new commissioner. Nash, so fucking checked out, does a promo where he says, what, to make more rules that we're just going to break? Love that as well, that you're hyping up this big angle that you're going to announce a new commissioner, and Kevin Nash is actively telling people at home, is like, this isn't going to matter at all, so don't worry about it.
Yeah, nothing will change.
The new commissioner is our good pal Terry Fuck. He's back, and he's got his own enforcer, who is the enforcer, Arn Anderson.
Do you know what? It's just now when you say that, it's like, God, it really was supposed to be Ric Flair, wasn't it?
Mm-hmm. And I love it. It's like, Arn, we've already paid you, so you might as well still come in.
So that's where the Orndorff and fucking, who was the other outfit, Zabisco, they were going to make an old horseman.
Yes, it was, the old guys. This was the original Millionaires Club type angle, was to get all the old NWA guys, the old Crockett guys, get them all together. Even if they all hated each other for 20 years in storyline, and just, bring the Varsity Club back as well while you're fucking at it.
Yeah, fucking why not, Yeah.
Now, I think we can both agree that one of the things that will keep us going this year is that Terry Funk is a regular TV character for a lot of this year, and he does feature on a lot of Thunders, and one of the most iconically hilarious matches that happens for the rest of this run involves Terry Funk, and it is on a Thunder, and I can't wait.
Terry Funk and a horse, that's all.
Yes, that's all we need to say. He has said that at Sold Out, if there's NWO interference in the title match, Brett forfeits the belt. I've got great news. You're not going to have to worry about Brett forfeiting the belt at Sold Out.
Now, look, he did name Arn the referee at Sold Out, and Arn is the referee at Sold Out.
Yes. He also hit the great latter-day Terry Funk catchphrase of, I'm middle-aged and crazy. They threaten to get Gormless Godson David Flair, the NWO do. Also, you will note from this package, which still isn't over, that Scott Steiner is back and immediately reverts to Scott Steinerisms and abducts a woman. He and Jeff abduct Daphne.
Wow.
Are two men that are both historically involved in angles where they treat women fantastically. Jeff Jarrett and Scott Steiner.
Tons of respect.
A woman.
Yeah.
Arn bops Nash with a crowbar, and the crowbar the person, and Gormless Idiot David Flair are the new tag champs.
They really shouldn't have had so many crowbars in around crowbar.
Honestly, if they go more than a month without somebody like a large wrestler picking up crowbar the person, hitting somebody with crowbar the person, and selling it like he's been hit with crowbar the object, they are missing out on a fine piece of, like, that's an Abbott and Costello bit. That's who's on first of wrestling. He hit him with the crowbar. No, he hit him with crowbar.
There's just fucking too many crowbars.
Yeah, they, like, I would happily keep crowbar the person we can lose Crowbar the object.
And I mean,
especially if like David Flair's going to be.
I was just going to say that, like, and the amount of times you were saying David Flair's backstage wanking off Crowbar, it's like it's getting very confusing what's happening here.
Unless your Devil's Gambit is we're going to keep one, and whichever one we keep, David Flair's going to be wanking it off. I'd have to say, Devon Storm, I'm going to save your life here and take you off TV. They attack Arn and put him in the trunk of a car. That's their new thing that they do. Okay, so now we cut to tonight, and the NWO drag Arn into the building with cable ties. I love, by the way, that they've clearly, like, this was recorded the same night as Nitro. And it's very funny because they do... they have him in cable ties getting out of the car to the arena, but he's somehow, even though he's been tied up and in the trunk of a car for 2 days in storyline, or 3 days in storyline, he's still wearing, like, he's wearing new clothes. Like, he's changed his clothes. So they obviously very
caring,
considerate kidnappers, bringing a spare change and bringing his gear bag with him. Fair play. Our first match. I'm so mad about this because this is genuinely historic,
yeah,
and also could not be treated with more disdain.
Yep.
This is a WCW Cruiserweight title match with Medusa versus Asia. I could be wrong, but I am almost certain, at least on TV, this is the first time in North American history, maybe the history of the world, I don't know, that 2 women have competed for a men's title on television. What had been traditionally seen as a men's title, should I say.
Well, we know it didn't happen in WWF.
We had the reverse, where Harvey Whippleman won the women's title in or around this time.
Yes.
Yes. If you want to count Patterson and Briscoe in drag wrestling for the hardcore
I
title,
don't, Dave. I really don't.
They have their evening gown match this year.
They do, Backlash.
Yeah.
That's burned in my brain, that Backlash card. Fucking hell.
Yeah.
Like, there's nothing that springs to mind, and yeah, this is something that could have been historic.
Yeah. So you had, obviously, the previous summer, the storyline of China going for the WWF title, and as we'll talk about when we switch over to SmackDown, she's currently the co-holder of the Intercontinental title, but it's one woman competing against men. So I think this is a first for 2 women.
Yeah.
Like, unless there's a random Raw or SmackDown where China wrestled another woman and put the Intercontinental title up on the line, that's the only. So if this isn't the first time, it's only very recently been broken by China over on the other show. I couldn't find it in a cursory look. I can't remember any time she defended against one of the women, because I thought the thing at the time was she didn't want to wrestle the women.
Yeah, I was going to say, I can't recall her ever facing any women until she has that women's title run, which is the following year. I don't even know who at this time she'd wrestle. Like, maybe Ivory or Jackie. Yeah. Would they be the only ones that were wrestling sometimes on TV around this time? Because Trish isn't there yet. Lita's not there yet. Tori.
Kitty is with her. Tori with an I is just a valet at this stage. So I don't know. So surely this is the first, but it doesn't matter because WCW don't treat it like it matters. This was a chance for them to really pat themselves in the back and go, look what we're doing that nobody else is doing. But straight away, Oklahoma comes out to complain about how a woman has no place competing for the title. And then the entire Revolution comes out as well.
Yeah, so Oklahoma is out before the bell even rings. And then as the bell rings, we're cutting to Douglas and Malenko coming out. Like, it's ridiculous.
Yeah. Shane goes to... The match doesn't even last long enough. Shane goes to sit down at commentary, but he doesn't even speak because he gets up and him and Dean are on the apron to distract. Then Saturn turns on Asia for no discernible reason. And Medusa hits the bridging German suplex for the win.
Mm-hmm.
Then it's revealed after the match, Shane and Dean are mad because Saturn hit the wrong woman. Now, can I say as well, one match in, and we've gone from potentially creating history, well, actually creating history, unfortunately, to man and woman violence in maybe a minute 45.
Mm-hmm. And the man and woman violence does not stop there.
No, it certainly does not. Medusa gets on the headset saying Oklahoma and the powers that be are pathetic and can kiss her ass. The filthy animals come out to clear out the revolution as Oklahoma hits Medusa with the sauce bottle and bails. He also appears to split her open with the glass because her hair is covered in blood within a few seconds. Also, they do that spot. The thing we should mention is we have to piece together that he hit her with the sauce bottle because the fucking camera misses it.
Yeah.
And if I was Medusa and my head got caved in by a sauce bottle and they missed it, I would flip the fuck out.
Mm-hmm. Like, oh yeah, she was messed up from this fucking spot. But yeah, in classic WCW style, they did not show it. And didn't even have a replay of it.
Yeah. Now, funnily enough, that's also not the last time someone would bleed from a glass spot tonight. But, or this month, should I say, because we already had Goldberg, which we should have learned from. But I would have to imagine that this is one of those, because even when you do sugar glass, you do the gimmick glass, it still can cut you.
Oh yeah, of course it can, yeah.
It's just not as potentially lethal as glass. So Goldberg still could have got his bleed on last week with sugar glass, but no, had to insist.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, I just wrote, everyone is here.
Just in general.
Harlem Heat are beefing. Yeah.
Fair enough.
Jesus Christ, this is a fucking mess. Harlem Heat are beefing. Is this a recap video?
I think so.
Harlem Heat are beefing, as are Buff and DDP over Kimberly. Oh, they do it. Sorry, this is the announce table. So they're mentioning that Harlem Heat are beefing. They mention that Buff and DDP are fighting over Kimberly. They run down the card. Hudson calls Flair and Crowbar the Badlanders, which is actually a pretty okay name for a tag team that I'm kind of not happy that they didn't stick with.
Didn't stick, yeah.
Hoovy's music plays and the commentators look so sad as soon as they realise what's going on. He's out wearing what I can only describe as Max Duster from It's Always Sunny and a bucket hat. Hoovy tells Tony Jabroni to get the fuck out, and Tony refuses to budge. Psychosis manhandles Tony, and Hoovy sits down in his place, at which point, thank God, the Funker is here. He jumps the table and fucking batters the pair of them, which is brilliant. Hoovy and Psychosis. He power bombs Psychosis through the announce table.
Yeah.
He says, NWO, we could do this the easy way and you bring Arn down now, or the hard way, I go back there and take him. The thing is, right, this is sold so much better than when like Larry Zbyszko was the avenging angel against the NWO, where like you believed he had a puncher's chance against Scott Hall, but you didn't believe this middle-aged guy would start on the entire unit or be victorious.
Mm-hmm.
You look at Terry Funk for 5 seconds, you're like, Terry Funk might actually beat up the entire NWO. And genuinely, not only in pro wrestling, but I think in a shoot fight, Terry Funk stands a real chance against the entire NWO.
That was the whole thing of Terry Funk, was you'd look at it and go, no, you know, in reality, nobody's that fucking crazy to take on a whole gang of people. But you look at it in reality, you'd go, if there's one person, it would be Terry Funk that would take on a whole gang of people because he's fucking Terry Funk.
Yeah. So Jeff comes out. Terry Funk calls him a little son of a bitch.
Yep.
He says him and the rest of the boys will be there in about an hour. Jeff says slap nuts a bunch to get that over, and says don't piss me off, which I think would recede as a catchphrase over the next few months. The fact that... Yeah, that is true. Sorry, I just reading my note here. It was like the fact that he demanded they bring out Arn and Jeff just went nah and didn't bring him out kind of undermines Terry Funk week one, wouldn't you think?
I mean, the whole fucking angle from the start has been undermining Terry Funk because, like, he literally came into the company on Nitro and that night put up the fucking commissionership at the pay-per-view.
Yeah. Gene is with the Revolution. The feud with the Animals is far from over. He challenged them to a 6-man tag. It sold out, but this time they have a mystery partner. Dean hasn't forgotten Hacksaw. Hoovy said, I think... Hoovy runs in and tells Gene, I think they need you in the ring, and tries to steal a spot for the rest of the night then is the running bit. By the way, as well, minutes after they had turned on and attacked Asia, no one mentions her.
Yeah, why would they?
In this backstage segment. NWO are in their moody sex room attacking a shirtless Arn Anderson. And we get dissension between Stevie and Midnight, getting him rolled up by Rotunda from Nitro. Gene is then in the ring of Booker T. Book says this is all he wanted when Stevie was out hurt and he kept getting his ass kicked, so he brought... this all started back when Stevie was hurt and he kept getting attacked on TV, so he brought in Midnight to watch his back, which caused chaos between him and his brother. He wants to get them back on track. He needs his brother and himself on the same page. Stevie marches out and says, let's get it right. Midnight ain't ready. I told you. She made me lose 4 matches now. Stevie said he started Harlem Heat. He had no right bringing someone else in. He said, I was suspended, not hurt, which is a weird distinction to make. Says he wants to wrestle Midnight and he's going to beat her into a conniption to show Booker that she's not ready. Booker says, just to bury the hatchet. Okay, but this match has to be fair and square. If he wins, Midnight is gone. If she beats him, it's the 3 of them together going forward. Gormless idiot David Flair arrives with Crowbar and Daff, so she's freed from her hostage situation. Back from the break, and they're watching Arn being beaten on a monitor. She's super into it. David is conflicted.
Does conflicted David Flair do anything for you?
No.
Oh, okay.
No. 6-man tag match, PG-13 versus... it's PG-13 and Chavo.
Yes.
Versus 3 Count. Mm-hmm. It's the wrestling debut of the unit of 3 Count. PG-13 are everything 3 Count aren't. Lee. In as much as they started off lame, but they weren't supposed to be, and it's gotten lamer, whereas 3 Count are getting genuine heat for the way in which they are deliberately lame. Mm-hmm. The PG-13 are horrible. And you know that they know this at this stage because Chavo takes most of this match.
Yeah. Chavo, we should say, is still a salesman.
Still inexplicable. It has never once been explained or led anywhere.
But I did love 3 Count in their boy band attire of generic football shirt and baggy pants.
Yeah. Yes. One of the PG-13 guys keeps trying to break Evan's covers. Evan keeps moving, so your man drops about 3 elbows on his own mate by accident. So he'll drop an elbow and Evan will lift off the other PG-13 guy, hit him with an elbow. He does it 3 times before the PG-13 guy goes, I should change what I'm doing here. Match breaks down. Chavo goes for a DDT. Shane hits him with the dance platform, the little circles they've been dancing on top of, and Shannon covers him. They go for a dance. I'll tell you one thing. You mentioned the football jerseys, Lee. It must be really shite to go do like a wrestling match, which is very physically exerting, even if it's only for a couple of minutes, and then have to remember and do a full dance routine while covered in sweat and wearing football jerseys.
Yeah, but that's the boy band life.
It is, truly. David is gormless and mad and walks off. We get a flashback to Tank and Jerry Flynn in the block. They've been working an angle on Nitro, and they will fight in the block at Sold Out. Did you know this was Jerry Flynn's signature match, by the way? Because it is outlined to us that it is.
Is this like Raw Underground? They tried to make the block a thing.
Yeah, I was keep my eye out for Shane.
Yeah, so obviously the block gets brought wherever they go.
Yeah.
It's not just generic arena fucking car park.
Perhaps it's like this kind of liminal space that exists outside time and space, that every arena has a door that immediately transports you to Da Block.
What's the fucking, like, all the different zones that, what's the Kung Fu Masters?
Oh, WMAC Masters.
Yeah, WMAC Masters.
Well, I don't know if the World Martial Arts Council would necessarily approve Da Block.
Well, they might.
But I guess they approve of the Universal backlot where the opening to Nitro was filmed.
So that's what I mean. Just randomly, like, they go through the gates and they're in Da Block.
Now, when we get back to Dragonstar,
That's a
fucking, if Jerry Flynn shows up on season 2 of WAC Masters, I'll fucking lose it.
Challenging people to Da Block all the time.
Hell yes, I would be so down for that. Unfortunately, the stopgap we have here this week is the shoot fight rules match between The Wall and Jerry Flynn. Unfortunately for The Wall, Jerry Flynn is such a unit that he ends up looking like the Garden Wall. It is doing him no favours. I love as well when a match barely starts and somebody not only walks out, but walks out with full music. And that's what happens with Tank Abbott here.
Well, I mean, when you have Tank Abbott, you have to make use of Tank Abbott.
Yeah. The Wall does the double-handed Kali choke. Jerry ducks a clothesline. Does his roundhouse kick to knock Wall over the top. Fight on the outside for all of 5 seconds. Now, Tank is on commentary for this, and he is completely lost.
Yeah.
But he does have a line that makes me laugh a lot.
You call,
2 lines.
Calls him the martial art moron.
The martial arts moron. He says, of Jerry Flynn, he says, he's out there in pajamas fighting a beach ball.
Yeah.
And then goes, wait, is that his name? The Ball? And I'm just like, between this and them slagging off the name The Wall on commentary like a week ago, I'm like, does The Wall have heat right now?
I mean, maybe.
It feels like he has heat, that he's being punished at the moment. I don't know for what. Wall misses a middle rope leg drop, rapid kicks in the corner, and Jerry Flynn does his cool corner flip kick. Taunts Tank, who immediately jumps him from behind, knocks him out, and The Wall covers him before Tank attacks him too. I wrote, and Lee Malone gets his wish as security comes out and Dillinger gets knocked out for a second week straight.
Dillinger took a proper flat back.
Yeah. Do you think it's like, when Goldberg was building his streak and like half of those wins were against Glacier?
Yes.
Do you think like that's what this is like you're going to pad the Tank Abbott stats with his knockouts that like if you look into it like 20 of them are Doug Dillinger?
Listen, I'll take it.
This now what you need to do in this era of like fan videos, like fan cams on Twitter and stuff like that. You need to do like a Doug Dillinger getting knocked out fan cam. Cut to some vaporwave music. That'll do numbers for us.
It'd be great.
The Gormless Idiot is backstage looking for Arn and bumps into Terry, who is willing to help him in his crusade. We have a WCW United States title bunkhouse brawl match.
Yep.
Unannounced.
Because we should say that Jeff Jarrett is now your United States champion.
Yes. And he is defending against Norman Smiley. I wrote, why is this match happening? Also, in a way to undercut one of your new top heels, Norman looks like Jeff is the first person he isn't afraid of.
Yep.
Norman has been afraid of everybody he's wrestled for about 3 months. And he's not bothered by Jeff.
Yep.
The Normula is in effect during this match. But he actually does get more in on Jeff than he has been getting in on any of the actual tough guys in the hardcore division. Tenay is absolutely aghast that Norman is fighting back. The only thing that saves Jeff's graces here is that Norman thinks he wins, but Jeff got a foot on the ropes. He does the big wiggle and turns around into the El Kabonk, hits the stroke and wins.
Yeah.
It's such a crazy way to book Jeff in this match.
Yeah.
Like, who is Norman Smiley compared to Jeff right now?
And we should say they announced that at Sold Out it's Jarrett versus Benoit in a best of 3.
Yeah. Which is definitely a thing.
Yeah, definitely going to happen.
definitely gonna happen 100%. Terry Funk comes out immediately. They get involved in a shoving match. He's middle-aged and crazy, Jeff, they shout on the commentary. Flair sneaks in and chokes Jeff. This is David, by the way, don't get too excited. Chokes Jeff with a crowbar, the object, while Terry handcuffs him. Terry says David's going to snap his neck. NWO have 2 minutes to get out. Starts battering his head with a trash can lid, which is very funny. The NWO come out with Arn. Nash says Terry has made a huge mistake. Challenges Funk, gets sold out. If he wins, the NWO is dismantled. Nash wins and he's the commissioner. God save us all. Funk says he has all the choices in the world. It's going to be a hardcore match, and also he's going to wrestle Bret Hart tonight. He doesn't want to be champ because he's old, but he wants to beat him up in a hardcore match. They do the hostage exchange, and Arn manages to get some licks in on Jeff as he passes by. That's like about 3 weeks worth of angles in 4 minutes there.
We're announcing Bret Hart versus Terry Funk in a hardcore match with like
halfway through the show.
Yeah, an hour's build, like 40 minutes build.
Yeah. Marinara and Big Vito make Disco go into a store to collect protection money. He begs the old guy to help him out here and to trade his Rolex for the money. Goes outside pretending he smacked the shit out of the guy in the store. It's an old guy, by the way, as well. Yeah. The whole bit is that Disco can't intimidate an old man. Funk is backstage with Arn. Stevie backstage says you can't ban my with them says you can't ban my brother from ringside. Terry says I don't care. He's like, I got bigger fish to fry, fuck off.
Terry Funk joining the long history of WCW authority figures who do not give a fuck about what happens on the lower card.
Yeah. Oh, sorry, he says, can you ban my brother from ringside? Not you can't. Yeah, so he asks to ban and he says, yeah, whatever. So we get Midnight versus Stevie Ray. Man on woman violence, Lee, take it away.
I mean, it's more man on woman violence. I don't know what you want me to say. Also, it's Stevie Ray. I mean, it's just bad. And also, we mentioned them in the Observer right up there. The Insane Clown Posse are in the front row, Dave.
Yeah. They sure are. Blink and you'll miss them.
Were they there all night? Or did they just appear during this match?
Yeah, I don't know. Also, the thing is, like, you want to talk about undercutting authority. Terry Funk agrees to ban Booker T, and Booker T comes out about 2 minutes into this match.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, because Stevie was about to use the slapjack and Booker comes out and takes it off him.
Slapjack the weapon, not the move. People need to come up with multiple names for things. There's two slapjacks, 2 crowbars.
Yeah.
Partridge in a pear tree. Hits a power slam. He gets too cocky and she hits an inside cradle and wins. So slip on a banana peel for the heel. Stevie is furious. He turns on both of them with the slapjack and stomps them out.
If only we had previous evidence that Stevie might possibly turn on his brother.
I know, right? Gene is with the Filthy Animals. Ray is making bunny ears with sticks behind. This is fucking stupid. Ray is such a fucking go away heat as a character at the moment for me. And he can't even wrestle to make me forget that.
It's just like Dom.
Yeah, I know, right? Go away heat and can't wrestle. Yeah, truly. This is what Dom said when he's watching his dad's tapes. It's exclusively this period of time where he's just an annoying man.
Yep.
They accept the Revolution's challenge. Hoovy distracts Gene with a woman. Who is this? Is this Pamela Paulshock?
I don't know.
Because he calls her Pamela.
Does he?
And like, I haven't seen Pamela Paulshock in many years because I deliberately don't watch.
I was going to say because you deliberately don't Google people from the early 2000s.
Yeah, well, I mean, there's that. It did look similar to her, but I'm not sure. Like,
wasn't this like again? I wasn't watching a lot of WCW from the mid 2000s, but wasn't the story being that like Mean Gene was training her to do that job?
Yeah. Sorry, I'm trying to see if I can find it in a hurry when she debuted, but I can't. But this could be like, do you remember when there was like a woman that looked eerily similar to Tori Wilson showing up a year before we were ready for Tori, and we couldn't tell for about a week whether it was supposed to be her or not, and it wasn't. So yeah, he kind of lures Gene away from his post with a woman and then takes over.
And it's funny because while I was telling you, I spent Saturday breaking up a bunk bed in my son's room, and while I was doing that, I had on Kayfabe Commentaries have a YouTube channel, so they have like videos they put up for free and stuff. So it was like I think it was in like a 1996 timeline with Kevin Sullivan, and he talks about me and Gene. And he's like, people, that don't know Gene, think he's just, this nice guy and don't know him as the lecherous prick that he is. I was like, okay. Kevin Sullivan shooting on fucking me and Gene.
I'm also just like, who doesn't know that he's lecherous?
Well, no, that became...
Who are these people?
That became his character because he was so lecherous.
Yeah.
Like he carried it over from the end of WCW into his entire rest of his WWF run.
Gene comes out to the ring then with his new woman in tow to talk to DDP. It's such a funny it's years before the cook thing becomes a meme online, because it's the most we're doing a cook storyline possible for DDP to go, I'd just like to start off by reiterating that Buff Bagwell is not banging my wife. Which is the most he's definitely banging my wife thing that anyone has ever said. It's like multiple weeks on TV or pay-per-view now. He's had to go, look, I thought he was banging my wife, but he's definitely not.
I have to whisper this. Is Buff Bagwell a surrogate for Eric Bischoff?
I don't know, you'd have to ask old DD Key.
It brings new meaning to the word bang.
Yeah. He tries to antagonize Buff to bring him out. He says it's no wonder Buff's wife first left him. Implies Buff is bisexual and can stick his stuff wherever for all he cares.
Oh, he says he's popular with the male audience.
Yes. Then what brought him out was, of course, the classic implying Buff has a small penis.
Yes.
That brought him out. They brawled. In the background, did you see Gene try to go out over the top rope?
No.
Oh, yeah, okay. Lee, I very rarely say this to you. You need to go back and watch this. Gene tries to jump over the top rope and basically just stinger splashes into the middle and top ropes and bounces back.
Okay.
So fucking funny. Why did he think he could jump over the top rope?
Gene could barely get through the middle rope. What made him talk?
I swear to God, watch it. It's fucking hilarious. It just happens in the corner of the thing. What the fuck?
Okay, fair enough.
Now, I will say, it was a very heated brawl between the two, and it got a great crowd reaction. So I'll give them that. That's the first thing on this show I will give them. The artist recording session, the third recording session. He goes to sing, but then he doesn't bother. Paisley said, I do love Paisley line here. He cannot force the truth from out of his soul.
That's the one I have, yeah.
He must wait until the moment is right. Yeah. It's pretty good.
I wish the artist would go to wrestle and then just not do it.
Yes, if only. Gene, with his woman fleeing, says, see, even being an announcer could be dangerous. Try to impress her. Hoovy is with Bam Bam, who is absolutely not fucking impressed that Hoovy is conducting this interview.
Yeah, that's
and
good.
Then, hey, stop me if you heard this one before. Someone jumps him and hit him with a bottle to the back of the head. That's definitely not happened on this same show to somebody already.
Yeah, but this was a champagne bottle, Dave.
Yes, to a man's head, I guess. Yeah, it's completely different. Completely different. They're two different things. We get Bam Bam Bigelow versus Kevin Nash. Backstage, Jarrett and Steiner are attacking him some more. They put him in a big wheelbarrow, bring him out to a smirking Nash. Nash attacks him with a bat and the ref calls it off. So Nash just could have pinned him and then attacked him with the bat, but just went, fuck it, I'll just get disqualified anyway.
Yeah, but see, Kevin Nash doesn't like Bam Bam Bigelow as a shoot, so why would he pin him when he can just embarrass him?
Yeah. We then get a World Tag Team title match. David Flair and Crowbar with Daphne versus the Filthy Animals of Kidman and Conan with Ray in their corner. David Flair and Crowbar have screamy thrash music now, the recognisable theme for their faction, which I hadn't heard in many years, but was immediately recognisable.
Yeah, the Daphne. Well, we assume it's Daphne scream at the beginning.
Within seconds of this match starting, you can see what a much more believable wrestling maniac character Crowbar is than David Flair ever was. He and David rub heads together and we're underway. Kidman handily beating on David in their phase of the match, which is very funny. The match is fairly basic, obviously, because David Flair is involved and he completely used the run of himself. It wasn't. Crowbar pulled Kidman off the top and Kidman took a nasty landing off it. Ray helps him stuff the top rope Hurricane Rana. Conan beating up both of them as Arn ambles out to the ring. Arn creases Conan with Crowbar the object and the Lunatics win. The Revolution comes out at the bell to attack the animals, including the already hurt Rey Mysterio. They're just having him be active when he's out with a serious knee injury again. Conan batters Saturn with the crutch and tells the animals fend them off.
Yeah, that was basically the end of the segment.
Yeah. This leads us to our main event, such as it was for the night, the non-title hardcore match between Terry Funk and Bret Hart. It's all Bret at the start, which causes the crazy old man Terry to start.
Whoa.
Oh, sorry.
You're just jumping into it here.
I'll tell you what, brother. I'll give you the office here, and you handle this main event. The first time we've had the pleasure of reviewing a Terry Funk match in WCW.
First of all, we need to talk about Bret's attire here.
Yes.
Because we see Bret in the 3/4 length denim shorts for the first time.
Yes.
Wrestling. With his NWO shirt, obviously.
Yeah.
Also, before we talk about the match, we need to talk about the people who are watching this match, Dave. Because
me and you
at ringside, we have the Power Plant Elite members.
The Elite?
No,
the Elite?
Not the Elite, the Power Plant Elite. So,
well, how had I forgotten?
I did not recognize, or didn't take the time to actually freeze frame and look at these people. But was there
this assortment of humanity?
Was there anybody that stood out to you?
Not immediately. Now, I will confess, I was taking notes. So, I was still typing up the end of the previous match. So, if somebody went under my radar, I do apologise to the listeners for that. But yeah, no one immediately recognisable in the half second.
Yeah.
Were they shown on the screen for half a second?
It was a pretty brief shot.
Okay.
But yeah, that was the first two things I wanted to bring up. So yeah, we talked about this on the Starrcade episode. This match probably led more to Bret Hart having a stroke than anything Goldberg ever did.
It's also his second match since, because he wrestled on Nitro, didn't he?
Of course he did.
Yeah.
But there's some pretty heavy fucking shots in this match. Because, it's Terry Funk he's working with.
Again, Terry Funk almost immediately just starts doing the bit where he hoofs a million chairs into the ring because he's middle-aged and crazy.
They trade chair shots to the head, right at the beginning of the match. There's also a part where Bret is put into, that hamper that they bring the weapons ringside in. And Bret is put into this and then takes a spill where he goes fucking head over heels and I'm guessing absolutely fucking wallops his head on the floor.
So the Starrcade match was on the 19th of December.
Yes.
On the 20th of December, he wrestled Goldberg again. On the 21st of December, he wrestled Chris Benoit on Thunder, which we covered last week. On Nitro this week, he wrestled Jerry Flynn for the title.
Jesus.
Then he wrestles Terry Funk tonight. The day this show aired, he wrestled Ric Flair on a house show.
Fucking hell.
The day after, he wrestles Sid Vicious on a house show. The day after, he wrestles Sid again at a house show. The day after, he wrestles Sid a third time at a house show. Next week on Nitro, he wrestles Kevin Nash. And that's it. So this is the last time we'll ever see Bret Hart wrestle.
Fuck. Jesus, I didn't think it was the last time we'd see him wrestle.
Yeah. But so think about that, right? That's what the title match. So we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. He wrestles 9 matches with a concussion in the 2 weeks after Starrcade.
And you can be guaranteed that in those 3 Sid matches, he's taking at least 3 choke slams or power bombs.
And you also can't say, again, that he's not aware of the post-concussive symptoms he's having. If Dave Meltzer is reporting that he has a concussion, Bret told him.
Yes.
Like, I think we can be pretty sure it's because Bret told him.
Yeah, because we know that Bret has been pretty outspoken about his time in WCW through The Observer. Yes. But yeah, like, it's just... I still can't get past the whole Bret Goldberg thing and blaming Goldberg for what happened to him. Anyway, Terry Funk goes for a moonsault. He misses. We get another unprotected chair shot to Terry Funk's head. Bret attempts to Pillmanize Terry Funk. Then we get a ref bump. Aaron is putting on a ref shirt in the back. We cut to the back and Aaron is attempting to put on a ref shirt through all his bruised body, and David says, no, I'll do it. And he takes the shirt off Aaron. And then he locks...
Is this where Punk got the bit from of doing the putting on the ref shirt backstage? What did he do? He recently did when he was the special guest referee. When he was doing that bit that he put on the shirt in like Gorilla.
He took a referee's shirt backstage.
I'm saying he's doing it. I'm saying he's doing a David Flair shout out. That's Mike headcanon now.
Sure. So David puts on the shirt and then locks Aaron because David apparently has keys to all the fucking doors backstage. He locks Aaron in to protect him. The NWO come out to attack Funk, and now David Flair is here, but Kevin Nash just cuts him off in the aisle and beats him up, which I'm sure brought a smile to your face.
100%.
This brings out main event stars Crowbar and Daphne to even the odds. Kevin Nash and Terry Funk brawl up onto the stage, and we get the famous jackknife through the set. And let me tell you, that looked like a rough fucking landing for Terry Funk.
Yeah. Isn't it amazing that like Terry Funk goes through significantly more punishment as an old man on these shows than Bret did in Starrcade? And if you were to guess, based on output in that year, whose career was immediately ended thereafter, you wouldn't have guessed Bret. But anyway, but yeah, that's the end of Thunder.
Apparently, the end of Bret Hart and Days of Thunder.
Yes, Jesus, and that's, I guess, like maybe when we're wrapping up the whole show, once we've done SmackDown, we'll talk about it as a historical week with the kind of like the end of the head-to-head and the end of Bret. But for now, let's just talk about this Thunder. Give me your overall thoughts, your winners and losers.
I mean, my overall thoughts is they have this big idea of bringing Terry Funk in to oppose the NWO Black and White or NWO Elite, whatever they were calling themselves, or NWO 2000. It's 2000, isn't it? 2000. The NWO Black and Silver.
They haven't named themselves as anything but the New World Order yet.
No, because New World Order Elite was when they reunited the Wolfpack and Black and White. So they bring Funk in as this commissioner to even, like, you know, give them somebody to fight against, and instantly they just, like, as you say, fucking take away any semblance of relevance he's going to have by Nash just going, it's not going to change anything. And then Jeff Jarrett just blatantly ignoring his instructions, and wrestlers just walking out on matches when they were told they can't, and it's just like none of it matters, and it's Terry Funk, and I wish it did, but it doesn't.
So
bad.
Bad.
It's bad. Like it is. It's just bad, and like there's like
If you're committing to one winner and one loser, though.
There's none. Like there's no winner on this show. Like all of the feuds they have going on are bad.
No, sorry, Gene.
Yeah, I mean, look, Gene obviously got his fucking. He had a happy ending that night, but like,
if they managed to untie him from the ropes,
but like, there's no good feuds on the show, like up and down the card, and like at least previously we could point to fucking whatever Benoit was doing, but like, we're not seeing any of the Benoit Jarrett stuff here, so.
yeah.
And we know at the pay-per-view we don't get Benoit Jarrett.
Yeah.
So
Yep.
I can't even say that's a good part, but because I know it's not going to happen. And yeah, it's just such a fucking, it's a mess of a show.
Your world title match is seemingly Brett and Sid, but Sid's nowhere to be found.
Where was Sid tonight?
Yeah, we know Goldberg is bleeding to death somewhere, but
like,
like that's not.
We didn't even see Sid on the recaps for Nitro.
Yeah. Your finish counter, brought to you by Ludwig Borger, has 8 matches on this show. 2 clean finishes, 1 disqualification, 2 interference leading directly to a finish, and then in the other category we have 1 via dance circle and 2 via no contest. We will take a short musical interlude and then return with SmackDown. Crossing over now to the World Wrestling Federation. And I had thought that this would be a good bit, Lee, if we just went, this show sucked, and then hit the outro music. But we'll see what we can talk about in this one. I expect that if you look at your progress bar on your podcast app right now, you are not seeing a huge amount of time remaining in this show. And if there is, it's because of any of the banter we do at the end. Because fuck me, I have maybe half the notes I had for Thunder on this. This is SmackDown episode 21, also airing January 6th, 2000, from Orlando, Florida. And whereas Thunder scored a 2.5 this night, SmackDown scored a 5.1.
Fuck me. For this shit.
For this shit. Just goes to show, like, you know, the Dave thing. We always talk about it. When a company's hot, there's almost nothing they can do to get rid of people. And when a company's cold, there's almost nothing they can do to get people. If only there was comparisons in 2024.
Mm-hmm.
We get a flashback to Raw as the era, the McMahon-Helmsley era, screw Big Show out of the WWF title. Now, a couple of notes from this. I remember watching this Raw, and it did get great heat.
Mm-hmm.
This month of Raw, where they were doing the Raw is War logos either side of the Tron being replaced by smarmy photos of Triple H and Stephanie, fabulous. Yeah. I can't remember how long, whether it was just one night or it was multiple nights, they did the bit where the two of them sat on a throne watching the show at the top of the stage. That was also great.
I think that was only one night.
Yeah, I think it was only the first night after Armageddon, but it was a great bit as well. And I was like, oh, we're on to a winner here, because you had texted me about how much this show sucked. And I was like, okay. And I was like, well, we're on to a winner, because I loved Heat getting Triple H at this time. And this little video package was great shit, because as well as the heat. Big Show should not be having this title.
No. He was lame.
So I'm happy it's not on him anymore.
Lame looked fucking champion.
Yeah. But then we get to what was your big bugbear for the night. And this was what would become the defining character trait of Stephanie McMahon for the next 20 years on television. And that is emasculating wrestlers regardless of whether it makes sense to the storyline or not. So please, Lee, this show opens backstage with a DX summit.
Yeah, like after the recap of Raw, we open with Stephanie standing over all of DX. Like, they're all sat on like this leather sofa, and Stephanie is lauding over them, saying how they all failed on Raw except for Triple H. So tonight they will show they will make it up to Stephanie and Triple H. By tonight they will all have matches, and it's literally just a couple of minutes of Stephanie emasculating all of the X, and that's how the show opens. And like you, I had memories of the the McMahon Helmsley regime.
So it's current. So it goes through three names. It is currently the McMahon Helmsley era. It then goes to the McMahon Helmsley faction at some point, and then finally becomes the regime.
Yes.
Then I think that's when Vince comes back and aligns with them as well.
And you also leave out the faction, as they were called by Edge and Christian.
Yeah.
Oh, excuse me. But yeah, here we are. What, 3 weeks post Stephanie turn?
Thereabouts, yeah.
And she is, as you say, fully just emasculating male characters for no reason. It's not necessary.
The other thing is, like, the thing that makes the least sense about all this is that they're all heels. Right? I still wouldn't do it, but I could hear somebody come at me with the argument that she berates them, they turn babyface, they have the last laugh. I still wouldn't have done it, but I can see where your logic is trying to do that. I think it's the wrong way to go about it, but I can see why you would do that.
If you wanted to have Triple H align with some better lackeys, like surround himself with better people. So, like, I mean, what are the New Age Outlaws giving you in the year 2000? It's not a lot.
Yeah. No, well, they're currently in a storyline where the storyline is they're scared of the Acolytes. See what I mean? There is a literal promo they cut this month where they go, Bradshaw, Farouk, we're scared to death of you, gentlemen.
Yeah, so, like... Yeah, like, if that was what was the goal, was to phase out DX and surround Triple H with a new faction, fine.
Or to have him, he's so good that he can do it by himself now.
When did that ever happen?
Yeah.
But, yeah, I could see that. But this is just Stephanie belittling people that are her friends.
Yeah. It makes absolutely no sense. It's so bad because they stay heel and they stay in this. Like, when do the New Age Outlaws breakup angle is
No Way Out, isn't it?
But no, it's SummerSlam because they wrestle each other at SummerSlam.
No, Billy gets taken out at No Way Out.
Oh, he gets taken
because
out.
It's a shoulder injury, and they go to the Road Dogg and X-Pac tag team for most of the.
But they don't do. They don't do the blow off until SummerSlam when he's back.
That's the one Billy Gunn.
Yeah. Yes, because they're still the rest of them are still in because they're part of the goose that get fed to be taken out by the Undertaker when he returns in May. Yeah, and
Billy's not there for that. So Billy gets turned on. I'm pretty sure it's No Way Out, and they take him out with the lead pipe to the shoulder.
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember that stuff, and can't remember fucking what day of the week it is. But yeah, so we also find out that Triple H is going to have a random challenger tonight. But
Oh, and it's never been done before. And if you didn't know it's never been done before, don't worry, because in this 2-minute segment, they say never been done before, I think 4 times. Now, look, I think if you insulate Stephanie from all this, I think the Triple H arc on this show is very enjoyable.
Yes.
I'll talk about it later. I think, like, obviously the quad is the thing that fucking kills him in terms of being an interesting wrestler for the entire rest of his career. But I really think the only thing weighing him down on this hot streak in 2000 is Stephanie. The only time it's a benefit to him and his act is when they're doing the love triangle thing with Kurt for 1 month.
And that he
there's
cuts
heat.
that short, yeah.
Yes. But anyway.
Because imagine the wrestling industry in 2024 if Kurt Angle was married to Stephanie McMahon.
Imagine. Opening match is Big Show versus X-Pac. God, you want to talk about boo-boo faces? Big Show on this show looks so sad.
Yeah, it was real to him, damn it.
It was real to him, and I think he knows people aren't happy with him, and we're not that long away from him being sent down to Louisville to lose some weight.
Well, I mean, look, if I signed for a company for many millions of dollars in 1999 and was told I was going to get a huge, massive push, and then spent the first year of my contract getting told how fat and shit I am, I'd probably not feel great all of the time.
Yeah, I'd be going, can I just be Shokishi? Can I be the showster? Because that stuff is coming up as well.
Like, when you think about it, they have on air for basically a year berated this man.
Yeah. But this is, like, it's so funny that, like, I think of 2 men in particular, right? There's so many that's like, once you get out of that fucking company and the way they treat a lot of people, why would you ever want to go back if someone else is willing to pay you? Wouldn't you be Tony Khan's best friend? Like, please don't send me back ever. I'm talking about you, Spooky Black. Or Miro, or fucking Andrade, any of them. But 2 people in particular, one of whom would be back has already left AEW and would be back in WWF in the morning in spite of how they treat him for 25 years, is Mark Henry. And another is the Big Show, where I could see Paul White, when his deal wraps up at AEW, going right back across the aisle, despite the fact that I think Mark Henry and Big Show may stand realistic claims to being the most repeatedly and consistently humiliated
not named JR
wrestlers, not named Jim Ross or Howard Finkel, in the history of that company. And like, at least with Mark Henry you can go, right, maybe the last 5 years they gave him a couple of runs where he was good, like the Hall of Pain run and the Cena fake out retirement angle. You go, right, okay, maybe he has good memories from the very end. But like, Big Show had nothing. Like, maybe you could say for like 4 months, short hair corduroys Big Show that beat Brock Lesnar and was Paul Heyman's boy was interesting. It was the most interesting he maybe ever was.
He was interesting for about 6 weeks because within a month of winning the title, he had lost it to Kurt Angle, who was also Paul Heyman's boy.
Yeah. Like, why would you ever want to go back there?
Because wrestlers are fucking dumb. I don't know what to tell you.
Like, at least in 1999, again, like, anybody with sense knows which way the tides are turning and goes, right, I don't care what shit I'm being fed on a spoon by WWF. I am saying, yes, sir, may I have another? Because there's not going to be anywhere else to work soon.
Yeah.
But yeah, so he comes out here, putting a beating on this little boy, choking him with his foot. Kyoto tries to break it up. He gets shoved. He DQs the Big Show. Pac then tries to hit him with a chair. He no-sells. One of my favorite giant spots that Big Show does love is the punching the steel chair into somebody's head. I do have a soft spot for that.
I thought you were going to say one of your favorite bits is where he goes, "Rah!" and scares everybody.
Yeah, well, that's what. yeah. The refs come out. He growls at them and they scatter.
Yeah.
Jericho is backstage with China and the Cat, calls being stuck with them a fate worse than death.
Well, look, at least we know where Chris Jericho was on January 6, 2000.
Yes. Truly. The police are patrolling outside tonight. Is this, I can't, because I watched the show so long ago. Was this for Foley?
Yeah.
Yeah. And this is not the most embarrassing thing to do with the Mankind character that would happen on this show. We'll talk about that soon. We have a tag team match. Chris Jericho and China with the Cat versus the Hollies. Hardcore and Crash. Now, I know you're a huge fan of the big shot Bob Holly,
Yep.
Lee. But can I say one of my favorite things from 2000 wrestling? The gimmick of a combined weight of allegedly well over 800 pounds is a great
I
bit.
love
it. It is a great bit.
The super heavyweights Hollies is just fucking such a great bit. They should have put tag titles on them.
Yeah. Yeah. They never had one.
They never had the tag title run.
Yeah. Jerry, being the classy man that he is, immediately makes gags in this match about Jericho being treated like a girl in prison. Jericho gets knocked out of the ring. China goes checking him. He shoves her. She lays him out, rolls him in. Falcon Arrow, which you never kick out of. That's the win. As again, like, I think a lot of people who aren't hideously sick fans like us from this period of time, if you put a gun to their head and says, what's Bob Holly's finish?
Pre-Alabama Slam.
Yeah, I don't think too many people would have told you the Falcon Arrow, but that was the first Falcon Arrow I ever saw in my life, was a Bob Holly Falcon Arrow.
I know, he also he never changed the name, it was always the Falcon Arrow.
Yeah. And, like, of course, the one thing we can't take away from him, even though we might want to, is beautiful dropkick on the man. Beautiful dropkick on him. But anyway, that's the end of this. China storms off with the IC belt after Jericho gets laid out.
Yeah, because don't forget they're co-intercontinental champions.
Yes. We then have what is a running thread for the night and was not even funny one time, and that is the fake Mick Foley, who plays a huge role. Like, people forget, Lee, the build up to what ends up being one of the hottest world title matches in the hottest year this company ever does. A significant period of the build is spent on a fake Mick Foley as Mankind. You might argue the juice is worth the squeeze because it got us to what is one of the greatest angles I've ever seen in my life, when he takes off the shirt and the mask.
And look, it's still the best thing Triple H has done in his entire career.
They not only the match,
The Cell.
but the Cell.
The Cell, yeah.
The Cell. Oh, like, you've never seen. People do the bit where the heel looks like he's seen a ghost. No one has ever looked like they've seen a literal ghost more than Triple H in that angle. I still, when I watch that angle, still get the, I'm doing the Rock, slapping my forearm, getting the goosebumps.
Yeah. Sorry, I just laugh every time I think of The Rock doing that.
Yeah.
Fucking geek. Yeah, he can be a fucking multi-millionaire. You're still a fucking ass.
More of that in a few months.
Yeah.
I just this Survivor Series to WrestleMania run is going to be unbearable.
It's
going to be fucking,
the amount of arms happening.
Buckle up. Oh man, buckle the fuck up. Dwayne comes in to make it all about himself, and then wall-to-wall social media is people trying to convince you this is good.
I always thought patting your own back was Barry Horowitz's gimmick, not Dwayne's.
Yeah. Fucking hell.
Have they released that WrestleMania documentary yet? You know, the one where they tell us about everything that happened?
They did, but like, clearly not the version that was
planned
to be released at one time, I imagine. Yes. Anyway, so basically the whole thing is fake Foley is wandering around at Universal creeping people out. That's the whole thing, and they come back to it like 4 times.
To be fair, real Mankind walking around Universal Studios would freak people out.
Yes, it would. Do you want to explain this Tory bit?
I don't.
No.
No.
Do it anyway.
Tori has to ask Stephanie, can she use the bathroom, because apparently all the
She all but implies that someone did a huge fucking shit in the women's bathroom and it's blocked.
Oh, I thought she said they were all in use, and that's why she had to use. And she was implying that she was desperate to use the bathroom.
So she was going to do the huge shit.
So then we come back from break, and the road dog is pestering Stephanie.
Speaking of huge shits, the road dog's here.
The road dog is asking Stephanie what his punishment is, and Stephanie's like, "Oh, I don't know. You'll have to ask Hunter." And he's not in the room, so road dog asks where he is, and Stephanie says that he's in the bathroom. So road dog busts down another door and walks in on Tori in the bathroom.
Ha ha ha.
We should also add that Tori at this point is Kane's girlfriend. Kane, who was feuding with the ex.
Yeah.
But Tori had to spend Christmas with the ex.
Yeah.
Because, women are property. And X-Pac beat Kane in a match or game of cards or something. And Tori had to spend all of her free time outside of the company with a man she didn't want to be with. Tell me if you've read that in a lawsuit recently. So Tori is somewhat friendly with Stephanie now, and this is why she's allowed privileges.
Mm-hmm. But also, again, you have the Stephanie trying to emasculate her wrestlers because she knows well what she's doing, sending Road Dogg in there as well. We then go to a 2-on-1 handicap. Mr. Ass versus the Acolytes. Crowd is fucking silent as the grave during this match, as well they should be.
I just want to point. Want to point out. Sorry, this is your current King of the Ring, Mr. Ass.
Yes, absolutely. Who is just going by Mr. Ass now, by the way. We'll say Billy Gunn, but they're calling him just Mr. Ass.
Mr. Ass,
TV. Yeah. Basically, he tries very early to get the jump on the two of them. They beat the shit out of him. Road Dogg comes in, makes the save, match is thrown out. One thing about this match that I will analyse: the Farouk Spinebuster fucking rules.
Yeah, I had a thought about this.
Yeah.
They've always just called it a Spinebuster.
Yeah.
You know what they should have changed the name to later on in his career? The
What?
Dam Buster.
The Dam Buster, that's a great one. Yes. God, they really missed a trick on that's merchandisable, that is. Yeah, it's a great spine buster. He definitely, that's a smart man who his bump card was fairly full at this stage in his career. He's like, how can I do a spine buster without having to take a bump? So he lifts you up like he's going to do a spine buster and basically puts a forearm across your chest and slams you down as hard as he can. And obviously, the AA spine buster is the greatest spine buster of all time. I would put the Farouk one very high because no one does it like Farouk. It's a great looking spine buster. The Rock can eat shit. Sorry. That's a gentle hug by comparison. The Iron one and the Farouk one look like they hurt.
They do, yeah. And you know what?
And I imagine the Farouk one is because it does.
We've recently seen the return of Powerhouse Hobbs, and he does a really good iron style spine buster.
Yeah,
I think he should take the Ron Simmons spine buster as well.
Do you know who would do a great Ron Simmons spine buster? Lance Archer.
He would, but he also does choke slams and shit. So
also, it's probably dangerous to Ron Simmons spine buster someone from that height.
Yeah, that's true. Also, I just want to say, while we're talking about tag teams, I fucking love the Lance Archer Brian Cage tag team.
Yes,
I'm all in on that.
It's the best thing they've ever done with Brian Cage, which isn't a high bar. It's not the best thing they've done with Lance Archer because the time Lance Archer put that cunt through a roof is still the best thing that's ever happened. If you've never seen, it was during COVID, wasn't it? Where Lance Archer's rambling around backstage attacking crew members, and he picks up one young lad and yeets him through the ceiling.
Yeah, it's that shitty tile ceiling, and all the tiles come down on top of him. As Archer just screams about everybody dies. It's great.
Yeah, that's why it must have been COVID, because it was Daly's place, because they were fucking up.
Yeah.
They were all over that place, because Tony's just like, yeah, I'll just pay to refurbish that. Kane backstage, he's fuming. He says, I want a match with that pervert Road Dogg right now. Road Dogg is infuriated that he has a match with Kane and he can't have Billy by his side. Steph plays dumb like she didn't set this whole thing up.
Well, I did like Triple H saying he'll have to fire Mr. Ass if he gets involved. And I'd just like to point out that it would have been a kinder, more gentler firing than previous firings.
True. I see what you've done there. Kane versus the Road Dogg. Fucking. I love that Michael Cole is perplexed at the idea that Kane would want to defend his girlfriend's honor. It's like, oh, just because Road Dogg was this creepy pervert that ran in when she was in the bathroom, Kane's mad about it. You're just like, oh yeah, Kane, a famously level-headed character at the best of times, and you can't understand why he'd be mad about this. You fucking weirdo, Michael. What are you on about?
Fuck's sake.
The psychology of this match is all over the fucking shop, by the way, because Road Dogg, a heel, is doing the fight from underneath babyface role in this match.
Thought the X were such valiant babyfaces all night here.
Yeah, and Kane is a babyface at the moment. Pac comes out to distract Kane. Road Dogg hits a low blow and a DDT on the ramp. Kane's up, hits the tombstone and wins. Yeah, bullshit. Fake Mankind gets scared when Jaws came out of the water at Universal Studios. Shout out to Mallrats. Kurt Angle versus The Rock. Just not told at all this is going to be happening. Nope. On the show, just happens. Now I know Kurt is only on the way up at the time, so it's not a top of the card versus top of the card match, but it is still weird to see it happen, and it hadn't been mentioned that it was going to happen at all to this point.
Do you know what was weird though?
What?
Like I said, we're 3 weeks into the Stephanie turn, and they are already pointing towards Kurt and Stephanie.
Yeah,
I did not remember that part.
I guess, yeah, I didn't, even though we already talked about it, I didn't even twig, yeah.
Like,
you wonder how intentional it is.
I mean, I think it's pretty intentional. Like, they're talking about how she, like, Lawler is on commentary saying she thinks he's cute. Yeah. He knows he's sexy. He's got the looks.
He's just a sexy curse.
That drives the girls wild.
We do get a promo from Cole, hard selling The Rock's infamous The Rock Says autobiography. I have not personally read this cover to cover, but everybody I have that has read it talks about how bad it is and how awful and how completely cancelable it is if you read it today.
Oh, I might have it upstairs actually.
Yeah, so I'm not going to do the review again because I haven't read it, but I have listened to the boys over at the Attitude Era podcast review The Rock Says on their Patreon series, The Bibliotech, and yeah, there was a lot of there's a lot of stuff where I'm like, ooh, okay, but I'll leave it at that for now. Let them do a much better job because they actually read it. We get by the numbers promos from Rock and Kurt. We get maybe a couple of minutes of action before fucking Steve Blackman comes out.
Yeah.
This is just both companies allergic to clean finishes. There has to be run-ins everywhere. Rock beats up Blackman, then hits Kurt with a kendo stick. Rock gets DQ'd and Blackman eats a rock bottom. Kurt celebrates like crazy for winning by DQ. And The Rock comes back and hits him with a people's elbow for having the distaste to celebrate.
Well, he remained undefeated, Dave, and that was the main part.
I forget how quick, because I thought Taz was the first one where he didn't win, but he claimed a win by technicality.
Oh,
he's only debuted a month and a half, and they're already, because like this is the second time, because they talk about the Steve Blackman thing, where like he has lost multiple.
Oh
matches.
yeah, that became his gimmick post Royal Rumble. He would just no sell all losses.
But I thought at least up until the Royal Rumble they were doing all clean finishes, but nope.
No.
Anyway, we get a 6-man tag match. I do not remember the period of time where Al Snow was in an uneasy alliance with the Dudley Boys, which the Dudley Boys clearly very unhappy about.
I don't think it's an uneasy alliance. I think it's just, here's heel Al Slow, and nobody fucking likes to see
Fucking
it.
hate him. Yeah, and we get Christian, Edge, and Jeff Hardy together because Christian and Edge still haven't done the full heel turn. Al Snow is great at what Joey Tribbiani would call smell the fart acting, where his mean face looks like him having just smelled a fart. Devon fucking furious that they're stuck with him. Match is absolutely nothing, and then Edge pins Bubba Ray. And I thought I would have put the house on this going, well, Al Snow was here to eat the pin.
No,
I was very surprised Bubba Ray ate the pin.
Al Snow's getting the push. I don't know where you're getting the idea that he's losing.
Yeah. Now, there's another fake Foley bit. This did make me laugh, though. And I'll tell you why. I do have a note that the fake mask he's wearing is impressively shitty. It's a great job at a shitty Mankind mask.
Okay.
That's not the bit that made me laugh. It's the park attendant who does the announcement over comms that a large, massive guest is loose in the park, which I will die on the hill that this is a reference to one of my favourite Simpsons gags of all time, where it's, attention Marge Simpson, your older, balder, fatter son is also in custody. That's the only thing I can think of.
In Duff Gardens.
Yeah. There's very few things that will make me laugh more than your older, balder, fatter son.
Yeah, maybe.
Itchy and Scratchy Land is a classic.
Or it's Itchy and Scratchy, yeah, Itchy and Scratchy Land, yeah.
Yeah. We're all out of Bort license plates. My son is also named Bort. It's a great fucking episode. I don't know. Did I tell you that do you remember there was the gimmick with Coca-Cola where you get your name on a bottle of Coke? You could find your name on a bottle of Coke, right? But they would do a thing where sometimes they would set up in shopping centres in Ireland, or cinemas is where I saw it most.
And
they would have a can printing machine.
Yeah, you can print it, yeah.
And the only thing I could think of was I walked up straight away. And I'm quite shy and I don't do bits with people who are strangers to me. I want to include them in bits in case they feel like they're being made fun of. So I'm quite timid with that kind of stuff. I walked up and I said, please, can I have a can with Bort on it? And they looked on their system and they went, I'm so sorry, but we can only put in ones that are pre-programmed on the list. I can't make it for you. And I said, so are you telling me
you're all out of Bort,
that you were sold out of Bort Coca-Cola cans? They looked at me, immediately getting the bit, and I was like, honestly, I actually think that's better than if you were able to do that for me.
Now you have that story.
You're sold out of Bort cans.
Brilliant.
Oh, my can is also named Bort. Anyway, oh god, I don't even want to talk about this, so I won't. Big Boss Man versus Test. Albert accidentally cost Boss Man a very bad match by bicycle kicking him. When Albert came out, I completely forgot he was aligned with Boss Man. And I was like, oh, he's out here to make the save for Test.
Yeah, no, he's there. Big Boss Man and Albert are the Finley and Knobs of WWF.
Yeah. This is before, obviously, B Squared comes in. Anyway. Triple H with a promo backstage saying he doesn't care who he faces in the random lottery tonight because he is in fact the game. We get a 3-on-2 handicap match, which is Kai and Tai versus the Mean Street Posse. Okay. This is the other laugh I got on this show. Jerry Lawler is fucking astonished that the Mean Street Posse's moves have names. He is indignant about that, and he's fucking disgusted that Michael Cole knows the names. So, like, Pete Gas hits the gas mask. He's like, gas mask?
Yeah, well, the gas mask followed the stock exchange.
And the high society.
Yes.
And to be fair, gun to my head, I would have remembered the gas mask, but not the
the other two I didn't remember. Gas mask I always remembered. More so from the video game.
Yeah. And then Funaki gets a flash pin and beats the posse here. All the dorks are backstage with the Fink and Steph for the lottery. She gives a big speech about how great he is. And then I didn't get, like, apart from we need a joke here, I don't know why they did this, because it makes Triple H look like an idiot, because they pull out the ball and the first one says Andre the Giant.
Is the idea that they all put their own names in?
Yeah. And that, like, they were just... Well, because I was going back and forth between, was the idea they all put their own names in, or was the idea that Triple H was rigging the draw?
The rigged draw would be a thing they would do later, which is where you get the tackle match.
Yeah.
Which isn't that long after
because
this,
he's
is
here.
it?
No, I don't think so. But I did laugh at the line he has here where he goes, if Andre was here, I'd kick his ass.
Mm-hmm.
Then they pull out Moolah.
Who's there?
And he's like, who's there? Well, like, her and Mae Young are fucking TV characters for most of this period of time. And Triple H is like, with all due respect, I want this to be a competitive match. He asks Finkel to pick one, and because it's Finkel, they have to humiliate him and make him trip on a banana skin, knock over the tombola, and he picks one off the floor, and it's Rikishi, which he does the full Finkel announcer, Rikishi. Triple H is fucking fuming about this. So then real Foley finds fake Foley while he's in the middle of talking about wife kind. And he just beats the piss out of him. And thankfully that's the end of that for the night. We then get the title match, Triple H versus Rikishi. I'm kind of let down by this because the match that I had in my head for this doesn't happen until about halfway through this match. Which is Triple H is one of the best I've ever seen at being the diabolical bad guy who cannot believe he is on the edge of finally being vanquished. So, like, at the start, it's Triple H all over Rikishi, and I'm like, that's not what I want from this. I want Triple H going, oh, fuck, I'm fucked.
You want...
And when Rikishi starts firing up, the look of fear in Triple H's eyes briefly here is like, fuck, this is what I want. But it took like half the match to get to that spot.
Yeah, you want big bumping Triple H, but instead at the start of the match we got in control Triple H, and that's not as entertaining. The worst part of this match, Dave, and I forgot this was a bit for a while, is that Stephanie is on commentary.
Yeah, she was awful. She isn't full. She hasn't gotten to the level of shrill she would get herself to within a few months, but it is still unbearable. This is the one type of DQ finish that I am totally fine with. Because you have Rikishi building a head of steam, and Triple H can't think of any other way out of this match than hitting him with the title to save his title. I think that's the kind of finish, the kind of DQ that works perfectly for his character. It tells you that he thought Rikishi could win the world title, which does a lot for Rikishi compared to if you'd just done like low blow, roll him up.
Also, it builds to that awesome 8-man tag.
Yeah. The crowd, the heat as well, because they love Big Quiche. And they were starting to buy into it.
This was like the peak of Rikishi this month.
Yeah. Look, the reactions through the summer that Rikishi and Too Cool were getting were like on a level with the main eventers in terms of crowd pops. You know.
But then
he goes to get a chair before the referee corps run out and break it up. And Rikishi, importantly, still gets up. Triple H can't keep him down. And that's the end of your show.
Well, no. Too Cool come out and they dance.
Oh, this is true. And that's the best possible ending to a show.
As Michael Cole screams, and I quote, "They're getting jiggy with it."
Yes. So, we're not going to do winners and losers or anything for this show, and we don't do a finish counter for SmackDown, but I suppose... put in context the history of this weekly. So we have... This is the final night of head-to-head. I think neither company put on a good show. in my view, you had the perfect example of what a bad show looks like in a hot company versus a cold company. Because I think if you weren't taking notes fastidiously like we were for this, and you just had this on in your house while you were cooking, and we're just kind of tuning in and out of what's going on, with the exception of that Stephanie angle at the very start, I think you'd come away from a casual watch of this show thinking it was good, because you're not looking at it with scrutiny. Because, as well, if you're at the time, the company is hot, so why would you be overanalyzing it because it's so over with everybody? Whereas with WCW, we're picking through everything as well. And because it's cold, you can hear the crowd now into it. So, I suppose, talk to me a little bit, like, what are your thoughts on this week of the final head-to-head, and also the last time we'll ever watch Bret Hart wrestle on the timeline?
Like, we'll start with the Thunder and SmackDown thing. Like I said at the top of the show, when you consider just how quickly WCW and Turner tucked tail and ran from SmackDown, it's kind of shocking in hindsight. Like,
21 weeks.
21 weeks is nothing. Like, so, like, look, I get it. They were getting half of the rating. But, like we saw, like, it took 2 years for the WWF to heat up to get those monster ratings. Like, while WWF was by far the better show in 97 and early 98, WCW was still on top. Now, WCW is not a good show at the beginning of 2000. I'm not saying they could have turned, but, like, something could have happened to where they could have become the better show again. And yes, it would have taken time, but they would have also always been the original Thursday night show. That's something they could always point to. It's something WWF have done for years. You know, the original Monday Night Wrestling is, like, they started that. That's their thing. And, like, that's what always blew me away, is when this talk with Netflix of taking Raw off a Monday. Like, it made no sense. Even, like, when Vince wanted to put Nitro on Mondays and Raws on Fridays or Thursday, whatever it was, for the invasion. Like, again, I get it. Vince has no concept of fucking being loyal to history. He just doesn't give a shit about that stuff. But, like, WCW and Turner just running and tucking tail, just, it's sad, and it's such a defeatist thing to do. But look, WCW is, like I say, it's an absolute mess at this point. There's nothing that we can see that's possibly going to turn it around. But that's not to say WWF is good at this point, because, like, we all remember the angles and the good stuff. But, like, I mean, you watch the show just the same way I did. There's so much shit week to week, or, you know, show to show on these, you know, on this classic era of WWF.
Yeah.
Like, the Mean Street Posse and Kaientai can't even have a clean finish in that.
No.
Albert and fucking the Boss Man Test and Boss Man can't have a clean finish in that. Like, there's just junk up and down the card on both shows. And, I mean, 1999 is probably the worst year of wrestling in North American history. Like, for bell-to-bell wrestling.
Because a lot of the good wrestlers are still in WCW but not being used. And a lot of the wrestlers that are being used in WWF are bad. At least in 2000, things have changed up a bit, and the undercard is holding up the match quality.
It's like WWF in 2000 gets that, like, 1996, 1997 WCW thing of quality undercards. And look, Triple H for the most part, Foley, Rock, they delivered in those main events. And I mean, I'll be the first to knock Rock's fucking wrestling, but, you know, they had a good year in 2000. But yeah, like, just as a side to side comparison, I just can't say that one is much better than the other if you're just going show by show.
Yeah.
But where WWF has it is their stars are over. Their long-term, I won't say they have long-term booking, but like their stuff feels consequential.
Their stars are fresh as well. The top 2 guys in the company right now, the top 3 guys, Triple H, Rock, and Foley. So, like, Foley is the one who's been around the longest at the top, and he hasn't been really at the top much or for long. And the other 2 guys, even a year ago, weren't at the top of the card. Like, do you know what I mean? You had, like, I guess Rock the longest, like, end of 98 is the Rock's ascension as a heel. But, like, it's all fresh. Who's at the top of your card in WCW?
Goldberg, but we don't want to go with him.
Yes, we don't want to go with Goldberg, who the crowd are telling us they want us to go with. We're going to go with, like, God bless him, but Brett, Sid,
Funk,
Nash, Hall. We'll wait for Hogan to come back, but then Hogan.
Terry Funk was, main eventing NWA shows in 1989.
Even as good as some of those people are, and as much as you and I love them, if you look at the tops of both companies, which is the fresher, more current company with the young and vital energy, it's not WCW. Yep. And even, like, a lot of that is mitigated if, like you said, you just go with Goldberg. But anyway, and then more specifically, the Brett thing is a real heartbreaker because he's one of the greatest professional wrestlers that North America has ever produced. And to encapsulate, like, November 1997 to December 1999 as, like, the end of his active career is such horseshit. Like, whatever about, like, okay, Montreal is Montreal, but Montreal happening shouldn't preclude him from having a banger run in WCW. There's still plenty of people you could have programmed him with that he would have had a great time with. You have a tailor-made angle handed to you in this is the guy that Vince McMahon screwed, and now he's coming to be the standard bearer of our company and run out all the ex-WWF guys because this is his company now and he's leading us into the new millennium. You know, there's so much you could do there.
Nope. And
with the odd exception, the odd good match, the odd good segment, he may as well have retired in November 1997.
You know what? Rich Craich said it in our Discord channel not so long ago. Tell me Bret Hart's 3 best matches in WCW.
Yeah, like everybody in the world immediately goes to the Owen tribute match. And then, as people who have watched the majority of his matches, like we've seen a couple of his Nitro matches. I watched all of them at the time. And we've seen all his Thunder matches when he has had them, not that many, and all his pay-per-view matches. And you really struggle after that, don't you? It's like, and that's everybody in our Discord did. Like, and everybody threw their hands up and goes. A couple of people came to 3.
No,
and they went, I have 3, but after
2, it's the Benoit match in Kansas. It's the pay-per-view versus Flair. The first match, is the Super Bowl. It's the first one, or is it sold out? I can't remember which one. It's one of them.
I can look it up.
And then after that, it's fucking dealer's choice basically because there's no difference in many of the matches. Then,
no.
Yeah, like, I mean, we've done the Bret and WCW talk many times. It's so sad that a guy who was so talented
sold out was sold out.
Yeah, like a guy that was so talented, and you know, the guy that cared about wrestling probably more than anybody in the business
too much for his own.
Yeah,
good
and like
sometimes.
to use the phrase, he was too much of a mark for himself. But like, it's because he cared about wrestling, and
yeah,
like the fact that he had a 2-year run in WCW at what should have been his peak, and nobody in power either A, had an idea of what to do with him and how to capitalize on, you know, the publicity of Montreal,
yeah,
or B, was able to get beyond the politics of all the people that were there and say, yeah, okay, but it's Bret Hart, and just go with him.
Yeah.
It says more about WCW and the organization than it actually does about Bret. And like, I've ragged on him with the whole thing with the Goldberg stuff, and it's only because I just want Bret to be better and, you know, not be one of these fucking kiss the ring freaks for Vince, but he is. And
not be bitter Bret. I don't want bitter Bret to be the thing everybody younger than us associates with.
But he is.
You know? And like, the thing you should be mad at isn't like what you perceive of Goldberg doing to you to end your career. It should be about how the final chapter of your career was such a wet fart. Like, how much it should have been a license to print money to do the first Sting and Bret Hart feud. It should have been a license to print money to have him circling around some people like, hey, him and Luger back in each other's orbit. Play off the old company without directly referring to it. That would have gotten some people in, potentially. You name it. Like, the Goldberg feud.
The Hogan matches we never got.
The Hogan matches we never got.
Savage.
He could have been a key... Savage, well, we got the Savage match. Savage was his second pay-per-view match, but like, gun to your head, Lee, do you remember a single thing about that? A DDP feud. He did wrestle DDP. You know, there's all these things. He could have played a key part in elevating Booker, like, because he wrestled Booker a couple of times.
He really liked Booker. You know, he would have done whatever he could for Benoit. Yeah. And, you know,
he could have been, if he was still face in 2000 and healthy, he could have been a great part of elevating Scott Steiner.
You know, if Jericho had stuck around, that Bret, because, you know, he was a young Canadian, you know, Bret would have done again whatever he could have. But, you know.
Now, obviously, some of that time is hampered by injury, and that's no one's fault necessarily. But he was still, again, like, I look at his cage match here, and he wrestles about 100+ times for WCW. Now, yeah, there's house shows, a lot of house shows sprinkled in there. But like, if you tell me tomorrow it's like between house shows and TV, I can give you 100 Bret matches with the WCW roster, build out what that 2-year period looks like. I'd do a damn better job on the back of a napkin than they would.
Here's the thing.
Yeah, it's about 110 matches
you
got.
Don't need Bret to wrestle every week on TV. You just don't. Your roster is already stacked. You don't need Bret every week.
He should be a special attraction. Yeah, like, while he's still physically got it, put him on some house shows with some young guys. He doesn't need to do practice matches for the pay-per-view with the guys he's going to fight, so utilize him to make your young guys better. And have some great TV had some great TV feuds. Like I said, don't have him wrestle intensively on television. Preserve that guy. Yeah, it's such a fucking shame. That's the thing I'd be maddest about.
Yeah, it's just such a waste, and you know, it's just one of those situations where WCW just couldn't get out of their own way.
Anyway, on that fucking dour note, we'll leave it at that. This has been a very special edition of Days of Thunder, recapping a very significant week in wrestling history. We will return in 2 weeks on the free feed. We'll return behind the paywall next week. A note for you all, by the way, because these changes are coming in now. If, and we hope you do, consider subscribing to us via Patreon. Please be aware that you should not subscribe via the Patreon app on iOS platforms, because Apple are introducing a surcharge that will add a couple of dollars, I think as much as $5. Yeah, it could be nearly doubling the cost of your subscription if you subscribe through the iOS app. Do not do that. Subscribe on a browser. You will get emailed your RSS link to add to your podcast app after that. You do not need to use the iOS Patreon app. We appreciate the money. It doesn't make a difference to us whether you do browser or app, but please save yourself a little bit of money by doing so through other means apart from the iOS app, because fuck that. Unfortunately, there is no way to circumvent that. The money, it's not that we're getting additional money, it's that Apple are getting additional money, so fuck off. But yeah, that's your word of warning for this week. But thank you very much for listening, and we'll see you again very soon. Bye bye.
Hey everybody, my name is Jesse Collins, and I want to tell you all about my show, the Gentleman's Wrestling Podcast, here on the Voices of Wrestling Podcast Network. On the Gentleman's Wrestling Podcast, we do a thorough analysis on the biggest issues and trends within the pro wrestling industry. We talk a lot about pro wrestling media, we talk a lot about fan culture and wrestling's place within general pop culture, and we talk about the broader influences that are shaping the way we discuss and analyze the pro wrestling industry. We've had some of the brightest minds in the pro wrestling intelligentsia on the show, including WrestleNomics host Brandon Thurston, both Rich Craich and Joe Lanza from the Flagship Wrestling Podcast, Trevor Dame from the Through the Years podcast, and a whole lot more. This isn't a show for hot takes. It's not a show recapping the latest episode of television. This is a show focusing on the biggest topics in pro wrestling and doing a deep dive on the real stories behind the surface level analysis you might find elsewhere. The Gentleman's Wrestling Podcast is available wherever you get your podcasts, and we'd really appreciate it if you gave us a try. Thanks.